My toxic entitled coworkers treat me like garbage in some kind of desperate attempt to make me quit my job so one of them can take it over. So I decided to get some revenge by literally flipping the script, as I chose to be the happiest person in the entire office, driving these two coworkers insane, with one of them eventually quitting right there on the spot. Here's how I did it. So I was working at a job where I had two coworkers, and their job position was intended to partially support mine, and partially they worked independently as well. And in the scope of my job, I reported directly to the manager. Now, these two gals were absolutely nasty and decided to try and get me fired because one of them wanted my position. They kept running to the manager with frivolous complaints about me and constantly undermined my work by not doing the support work. In addition to this, two other people left at the same time, so pretty soon I was overwhelmed. I was overworked, I was miserable, and I was working what felt like 3 jobs instead of 1. The more miserable I got, the more visibly happy they were. And I would get even more sad because I once thought of these gals as friends. I felt like I was carrying so much weight on my shoulders, feeling unsupported by my manager, being attacked by these women who were once my friends, and just physically and emotionally overwhelmed with so much work. I was running myself ragged and really letting go of my appearance, and just overall looked really frazzled. One day I was sitting in my apartment crying, thinking about the smirks on their faces when I left that day, and then I thought to myself, wait a minute, if they are so happy seeing me miserable, then the opposite must be true. What if they saw me happy instead of sad? Well, the next day I woke up, I combed my hair, I wore makeup, I put on the nicest clean clothes that I had, and then I went to my job and pranced in with a huge smile on my face like I was on cloud 9. I then chatted happily with one of my favorite coworkers loudly, who just so happened to be sitting next to one of the other 2 women. I then watched those gals out of the corner of my eye, and they exchanged a wide-eye look that basically said, oh no, we're doomed. Well, fast forward to the next week, and they tried again their very best to annoy me. One of them kept interrupting me constantly, unnecessarily, and every single time I just gushed with smiles and gratitude. And let me tell you something, the disappointment on their face was downright hilarious. I enjoyed smiling at them every time I passed by, saying over-the-top sweetly please and thank you, and acting so incredibly considerate towards them every chance that I got. And you know what? It drove them insane. And pretty soon, they were looking terrified and miserable. It became fairly apparent that they thought I had some kind of secret discussion with the manager. And at one point, one of the gals had an outburst and went and yelled at the manager, saying, "You're just gonna fire me anyways." Well, you know what? That's exactly what happened. She did get fired. And it was not because I said anything to the manager. It was only because she couldn't handle me being happy. In fact, the other one was so scared that she went silent right after that. Well, eventually I left that job because the management sucked, but I'm seriously in awe of just how much appearing to be happy and being super nice affected them so much. I got to make them as miserable as they made me, without ever having to be actually unkind to them in the way that they were to me. And that honestly makes this entire situation very much worth it. Okay, I love this because this is honestly so true. People like the 2 coworkers in this, like they're the kind of person who would be like, oh, I want to make your life as miserable as possible. They're intentionally not doing their job, they're making it so like you have all this work to do, and they're basically just trying to like ruin your life, and that is so miserable. It's like, dude, I just want to show up to work and like do my job and then go home and get paid and make rent and all that stuff. The last thing I need on my plate is some idiot trying to be like, oh, well, I'm gonna make it so you can't do anything right. Because dude, you literally negatively affect the original poster and their ability to get their stuff done. So I love the fact that you killed them with kindness because that really is a real thing. If you just go in it and even fake it just a little bit, this will literally drive them crazy. So honestly, I love the way you did this, and I think the fact that these people literally got put in their place, with one of them even quitting, in my opinion, makes this whole situation absolutely hilarious. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My sister-in-law is living with us rent-free, but honestly, I'm so sick of dealing with her because her attitude and demeanor is so condescending that it's making me question if I even want to stay here any longer. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm a 26-year-old female, and I wanted to get some stuff off of my chest about my sister-in-law, who's living with my parents and I, and with her 4-year-old daughter. Not only is she rent-free, but my parents are paying for her each month. I feel that she is an entitled parent and that I'm in the right, but I keep second-guessing myself, so I just wanted some opinions. Our family situation is extremely out of the ordinary, but I'll try to summarize. My brother is a paranoid schizophrenic with intense anger issues and violent tendencies. I always knew he shouldn't be a parent, but he ended up inviting us to a wedding 10 days before it to a woman that I had never met, and my parents only met like one time. And actually, at the wedding itself, my other brother brother and I found out that she was pregnant. Well, it turns out my brother was a deadbeat who ended up abandoning his wife and daughter a week or so after she was born. He had a psychotic break, he left his job and rode his motorcycle all around the country multiple times, along with countless other reckless behaviors. Now, obviously, I felt horrible for my sister-in-law. I've been in light contact with her and the daughter over the years, and I liked her well enough. Her daughter is an absolute ray of sunshine who cracks up laughing every time I talk to her, and we have lots of fun together. Now, my sister-in-law is an immigrant who doesn't have citizenship. Her education from her home country is not considered here, so she's bounced between many very low-paying jobs. Now, I have felt very sympathetic to hear her situation, and I have tried to help out when I can over the years, as long as it doesn't sacrifice my own mental health and well-being, which I already struggle with a lot as it is. My sister-in-law has many family members living in the United States, some local and some in other areas of the country, and before moving to my parents' house, she has tried living in at least 3 different places with members of her family. Now, my parents and I always wanted to take her in, but we were dealing with my brother living with us and refusing to work and find his own place. He has this huge resentment towards his wife based on delusions that she is not the woman he once knew, and was somehow replaced with some kind of agent that was sent to ruin his life and steal his money. He thinks his daughter isn't his despite heavy resemblance and a DNA test, and even refused to pay child support for a long time before my parents and the courts were able to get him to do so. Now, I've been bullied and terrorized by my brother my entire life, and it's only gotten much worse in recent years. I was finally able to break free from him in October after having to call the cops to take him away to the ward again because he was smacking my parents in the face, saying he was going to take them out, if you know what I mean, while also almost starting a fire in the garage and destroyed numerous things, including one layer of a glass door that shattered all over the basement floor. Now, I decided to move out because my parents were open to taking him back when he was out, but I never want to see him again, or else I think I might go into psychosis myself. Luckily, he ended up moving to his own place since my parents offered to give him $1,000 a month, and then my sister-in-law and her daughter moved into my parents' house. Last month, I was struggling with my mental health and difficult coworkers and bosses, and I ended up leaving my job and decided to move back to my parents. But now, after living with my sister-in-law, I have come to strongly dislike her. The only way she would talk to me would be to go on long-winded monologues offering me advice I was visibly uninterested in, and on top of that, she simply didn't listen to a word that I had to say. I still hung out with her daughter, but I decided to stop talking to my sister-in-law because I didn't like to. I still didn't have a problem living with her until she started saying many smug, passive-aggressive things to myself and my parents, and questioning the way I do things, such as the way that I brush my teeth, or asking me why I'm using certain bathrooms and stuff like that. Now, for her daughter's birthday, I had bought her an over $100 tricycle that she loves, and she has some trouble pedaling, but she's learning. I went to the park with my sister-in-law and her daughter one day, and my sister-in-law said, "Do you still have the receipt to this tricycle? You should return it. She can't use it. And I read bad reviews online. I want a different one." And I was pretty annoyed by this, but I still just shrugged it off. My mom also bought her daughter a kitchen playset, and the daughter told my mom that her mom said that she should have gotten a bigger one. The next day, my sister-in-law's daughter and I were playing with my cat, and we were just having fun making cat noises. Well, my sister-in-law then says, "Oh, stay away from that cat," and then turned to me and said, "I don't want her saying that." And she's literally talking about her daughter saying meow over and over again. So I decided to spend some time alone, and I just went to the basement. Well, her daughter wanted to follow me down and really wanted to hang out with me, so I decided to turn on SpongeBob, which was something that we could both enjoy while I used my laptop. Well, not even 5 minutes had gone by before my sister-in-law calls her daughter back upstairs. I didn't hear everything, but I did hear the daughter start crying. They were basically screaming that they wanted to keep watching SpongeBob with me. She then asked her mom if we could watch something else together, but she never came back, so I'm guessing that was a no. Even after all of this, I just decided to ignore my sister-in-law, and I just kept to myself except when her daughter follows me around or engages with me. But eventually, I couldn't stand it any longer, especially when my sister-in-law decided to scold me directly in my own home. I was nervous because my dad and I were just about to start a Zoom call in a minute, and I was drying my hair while my dad was yelling to me to go get my charger. At the same time, the daughter is following me all around, asking me about each move that I make and saying to me, "Oh, can I join?" Literally just speaking a million miles a minute. And this is completely fine. I know kids do that, but I think they should be taught boundaries. So I said to her, "Yes, but we are about to start a call, so please be quiet." Well, when I said that, my sister-in-law runs over and says, "Don't say be quiet to her like that." She then grabs her daughter and rushes her back to their room and says, "I'm having her stay with her aunt tomorrow." Well, fast forward to the next day, and they were gone the entire day and didn't even come back until midnight. None of us saw a sign of them all day. Ever since this happened a couple of weeks ago, my sister-in-law and I no longer talk, except a few days ago when she was criticizing my mom, telling her that she does things wrong. I then then joined the conversation really upset, and we both were like, okay, well, what did we do wrong? To which she replied by saying, you know what you did, and then refused to tell us exactly what we did. She tells me that I have no control over my emotions, and again, I said, okay, well, what did I do? She then gets this really accusatory look in her eyes and says to me, you don't know what you did? You told my child to be quiet. That is wrong. You know you are wrong, and now you are still mad about that? I actually feel bad for your brother because I saw you talking to him like this too before. She then said many other very insulting things to me, and after that had the audacity to start crying and tell me that I should feel bad for her in her situation and what my brother did to her, while also saying that I had no idea what it's like to move to another country, how she's developed an illness from her pregnancy, and all this other stuff. There's a lot more than this, but honestly, overall, I'm so sick of this and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, seriously, anybody living under someone else's house rent-free has got to have a better attitude than this, because literally, they're not paying a single dime when it comes to like supporting themselves. So with all things considered, I don't blame you for being frustrated. If I was living under these circumstances with someone who's clearly ungrateful for what they've been given, I would also be pretty pissed off. So hopefully some kind of solution comes about from this, because this sounds like a miserable existence. My mom is coming to visit me in South Korea after I literally moved away just to get away from her. And right now, I really want to tell her that I don't want her showing up. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my mother is determined to come and see me. For just a little bit of context, I moved to South Korea 10 years ago to get away. I renounced citizenship of my country, and I thought that this way she could never make me go back. That worked for me, but now she wants to come here. She came once many years ago, and I did not handle it well. I don't think she noticed too much was wrong, but I had support then that I just don't have anymore. We have issues from my childhood that I know I need therapy to address, but I simply can't afford it. I've also tried to ask artificial intelligence, which told me, okay, you need to stop holding yourself responsible for your mother's emotional state, which really was a slap in the face. And as a side note, she doesn't know that she's the source of any issues. She thinks she's never done anything wrong in her life. And you know what? I know this might be the last chance we have to see each other before one of us passes away, but never being able to see her again would be completely fine with me. I mean, it's already been a decade since we last saw each other, but there's still that annoying biological instinct of, oh, this is your mother. You can play nice for 1 week. You're an adult. Act like it. I have time before the visit, and I'm honestly so stressed. I might try to see what expenses I can cut to try and afford a therapist either way, but I also just want to say no. So would it be okay to say, I know you're looking forward to the trip, but, and then say that I don't want her coming along? But honestly, I don't even know what to follow up with that. I could say something like, oh, I'm really stressed out and I know it's early on, but I don't think it'll work, but honestly, I've got nothing. And what if I don't say no? What if she comes and I end up breaking down and saying or doing something horrible to her face? Way worse than if I just said no. I'm honestly at such a loss because right now I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, seriously, if your mom has really caused this many problems in your life, then just say no. Tell her, hey, this is not gonna work out, I don't want you to visit, and I'm really sorry, but it's just not gonna work. And then just be done with it. For context, the original poster is 30 years old, and I totally understand this is like really stressful, and you do have that instinct of like, oh no, but it's my mom. But also, you deserve to have peace. And if your mom is causing you that much trouble, then dude, absolutely say no. You're not obligated for her to come and visit, and you definitely do not have to entertain that, especially if this is someone who's caused you a lot of turmoil. Am I the jerk for refusing to reimburse my friend for a chair that broke under my weight literally while we were at a house party? Because right now, I really think she's just trying to fat shame me, and at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So I was at a friend's house for a game night this past weekend with a group of about 6 people. Everyone brought food and drinks, and we were having a really good time when about halfway through the night, I got up to use the bathroom. When I came back, I saw that one of the girls had moved from a chair to the side to my space on the couch. Now this didn't bug me as people shuffle around in groups, so it's whatever. The chair was an antique wooden chair that sat a bit lower to the ground with an added back and butt cushion. Well, when I sat down, it immediately broke, sending me to the ground with the seat under me and the arm frames falling to the side. Everyone got quiet for a second before jumping up to help me. I wasn't hurt, I was just a little bit embarrassed. For context, I'm a bigger girl, about 260 pounds, and I'm about 5'7". My friend was very gracious and nice about it when it happened, accepting my apologies and telling me not to worry. Her boyfriend said that the chair was his grandmother's, and it has fallen apart before, and he was able to repair it. I was then ushered back to the couch and game night continued. Well, fast forward to the next morning, and I received a text from my friend who let me know that the chair couldn't be put back together, and that from her research, it would cost about about $250 to get a new one. She then said she would let me know how much when she found one. Now, when they told me this, I was a bit taken aback and I responded confused, asking why I would be expected to pay for a faulty chair. She then said while yes, on occasion the frames would become unattached and cause it to fall apart, but apparently that's not what happened this time. She then sent me pictures of the broken chair, particularly a bent support and 2 other broken supports. She said that the chair broke under my weight and couldn't be fixed, and since the chair was an antique from her boyfriend's late grandmother, she wanted a new one for him. I responded that the chair was very old and had a history of collapsing. If they were really that concerned about preserving it, they should not have had it out for people to use, and $250 for a chair that I sat in for 1 second seems a bit ridiculous. At this point, she seemingly got frustrated and said that she loves me but that I'm her biggest friend, and that it would not have happened to anyone else. She said to me, "It broke from your weight plopping down all at once, not because the frame was loose. I think it's only fair you reimburse us for the chair since you're responsible for breaking it." So right now, I'm still figuring out how to respond. I don't want to pay her for something that I don't see as being completely my fault. I also think that she's using this scenario to shame me about my weight a bit, which I find really frustrating. My friends' opinions are mixed, and a few are saying that I should just pay her and move on, even if it's not exactly my fault. One person thinks it's my fault and says that I should pay up, and a few more think that she's in the wrong for asking and that I should continue to politely decline. So with all things considered, am I the jerk for refusing to pay for this chair? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Dude, if that was me, there's no way I would ever pay for that chair. No, you're not the jerk because this is honestly insane in my opinion. Because first of all, you said the thing I was thinking the entire time. This friend is using this situation to shame you that you're just a little bit heavier. And that's not fair at all. Like, in my opinion, that's messed up. It's crazy to me that they think they can try and talk to you like this and be like, yeah, you broke it because you're the biggest person in the room. You're my biggest friend and no one else would do that if they sat in it. But it's like, okay, well, if you didn't want people to sit in it, then why was it out in the open for people to sit on? Like, if this is really worth $250 and it's some kind of like antique chair, then maybe treat it that way and put it somewhere safe. Don't use it for a party that people are getting up and down from. And who's to say that your weight would have caused it to collapse and not somebody else? From the sounds of it, this stupid chair was like really rickety anyways. So it's like, okay, anyone could have made that drop. And I would argue even some of the skinniest people in the room could have made that thing fall apart. Like, it just does not sound structurally secure at all, and I just don't think this is your fault. So no, I would never pay for that chair, and I would definitely never pay $250 to anyone talking to me like that, because I really think she is just trying to fat shame you, and that is not fair in the slightest. My managers are micromanaging me and being very condescending and passive-aggressive anytime I make any kind of mistake in my job. And I'm at a point where I seriously am not sure if I need to find another job because this feels incredibly targeted. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been working at a new restaurant for about a month or two, and today was really rough. One of my managers has been kind of difficult since day one, really condescending, passive-aggressive, and very nitpicky. And I've honestly felt targeted by him a lot. He kept telling me to do things throughout my shift, but not in a normal way, almost like he was barking orders very rudely in a way that made me feel dumb and incompetent. Now, to give some credit, I've served at my previous restaurant for almost 2 years where we had no food runners and were pretty much left to fend for ourselves. This job has food runners, which only made the new point of sale system more challenging. And overall, I think I've done pretty well managing tables. Now, it wasn't really the exact thing that he said. Instead, it was the tone and the delivery that made me feel like I couldn't do anything right. At one point, he asked if I was okay because I seemed annoyed every time he corrected me. But honestly, I wasn't being happy-go-lucky with him because I wasn't tolerating being mansplained by a 40-something-year-old man as a young woman. I was clearly annoyed by the way he was talking to me, but I tried to stay calm. When he asked me if I was bothered, I said not really and that I was fine, and then I just kind of walked away. Later, one of my tables became challenging, and there was a small mistake with the food. And mind you, it wasn't fully the food runner's fault or fully mine. I assumed the runner handled it, and I just didn't double check. I take responsibility for that oversight, but I also feel like I got blamed more than what was fair, and it honestly just all felt like a ripple effect. The general manager and another manager called me into the office to talk through my shift. They told me I needed to make sure that the guests get their food and that I shouldn't make mistakes like that ever again. They also told me that I don't look approachable and commented on my attitude. I then started crying at the beginning because I was so overwhelmed and embarrassed. Afterwards, I signed a coaching form acknowledging the conversation. At this point, I feel like I'm being singled out, especially since the other servers all hang out with the manager managers and seem completely fine. I don't know if my reserved personality makes me stand out or if the rude manager just has it out for me, but it's been a really stressful day. Coming from my attitude and claiming I'm unapproachable felt like a low blow. I've made friends with other servers, I'm welcoming and friendly, but I'm not the type to be super friendly with or even kiss up to any of the managers. I will be polite and respectful when needed, but honestly nothing more, and I simply won't fake it just to abide by their expectations. I've never had a problem like this at other jobs. Sure, there have been issues, but nothing to this extent. I'm conflicted and I'm honestly not sure what to do here because this really is incredibly annoying. Okay, I hate to be the person to tell you this, but they are 100% targeting you. I've been through this situation before, like I literally feel like that guy from Squid Games where I'm like, I've played these games before, because this is exactly what happened to me. It seems like everybody else can get away with stuff, but you're the only person under a microscope. And honestly, I think it boils down to the fact that they simply don't like you. And I'm sure you're a great coworker, like you just do your job and you're doing the best you can, and yet even though you're performing well and you're doing everything you're supposed to, they still just simply don't like you. And they're still trying to find every reason under the sun not to like give you any credit or at least try to like pick you apart. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would be finding another job. You do not need this kind of energy because these people suck and you can do way better than this. An entitled Karen tries to get me fired when I won't accept her coupon that is for another store. So I've been working at a Subway near my house for a couple of months, and I was making myself a mid-shift lunch when a woman came up to the counter to order her sandwich, and so I put aside my food and helped her first, as I'm supposed to do. After she ordered her sandwiches, I got them all wrapped and rung up, and I told her the total, and she gave me a coupon for a buy one get one free, and normally I would be okay with it, but it was for a Jimmy John's and not a Subway. When I told her that she couldn't use it here and that she would have to pay the full price for the sandwiches, she told me it was okay and that she would know because she worked at a Subway when she was my age. I told her that I was working there now and that it wasn't okay now because it's an entirely different chain of stores. We don't take those coupons. After a couple of minutes of back and forth of pretty much the same thing, she said that she'd like to talk to the manager as they were friends. At this point, I didn't argue because it would hopefully make her go away, and so I called my manager and put my phone on speaker. The conversation went as follows. The manager answered, I explained to the manager that a customer wants to talk to them, and this customer immediately says, "Your employee is refusing to accept my coupon and is forcing me to pay full price." I chimed in by saying, the coupon is for Jimmy John's. I've tried explaining it to her that we cannot and will not take it, but she refuses to listen and pay for her 2 sandwiches that are already completed. The customer says, "It's just a sandwich. What's the big deal? Now, can I get my sandwiches or what?" I then explained that no, we can't do that without them paying full price. It's not a Subway coupon. I can't accept it. This customer then says the very thing that almost sets me over the edge. She says, "I want this employee fired for this. He is refusing to give me my food. How can you be on his side? This is so unfair." Thankfully, my manager was not having it and actually had my back. My manager said, "Ma'am, if this continues, I'm just gonna hang up and nothing's gonna happen. Make your choice. Pay for the subs or leave." After that, she said a bunch of slanderous words about our location and how unfair we were treating our customers and all this other garbage. But to keep a long story short, she left, the subs got thrown out, and she was never to be heard from ever again. How on earth do you go into a Subway and try and use a Jimmy John's coupon? I mean, what kind of weirdo is that? You're just causing a big fuss over a sandwich that you could have made at home for cheaper. And I thought this manager was your friend. What happened? On a personal note, when I worked in customer service, I absolutely hated when a customer would try and claim that they knew the manager by person or that they were friends, because 99% of the time that was a complete lie. If you're friends with them, go ahead and give them a call and complain about me. I could care less. And you can bet those are the type of people who are the most entitled, and they will act the most crazy when they don't get what they want. It's just absolutely insane, and it's completely irrational. Worst of all, if this actually is the case where the manager is friends with this crazy customer, the manager is probably too much of a coward to say anything to this person for their negative, abusive behavior. And that, in and of itself, is completely horrible to deal with as an employee. All things aside, I'm so glad that this lady did not get what she wanted, and I'm so glad that coupon was not accepted. Because Karens like this need to be put in their place. Because the last thing they want to hear is the word no, when in reality, they should have heard that years ago. Today, I messed up by asking a girl at the gym to put my hair in in a ponytail. This happened 2 days ago and I'm still horribly embarrassed. I go to a really big gym with lots of treadmills. For the first part of my workout, I usually run several miles. I also have long curly hair. It's very clean and well kept. I know it's not gross because random women always approach me and say how much they like it. It actually embarrasses me because I'm a little shy. The problem is, lately when I've been running, it's flopping around getting into my eyes, which is super annoying. Last time I was at the gym, this woman noticed and put it in a ponytail for me. It worked out great and I was really appreciative. So the other day, I bought some hairbands, and when I got on the treadmill, I tried to put it in a ponytail. After 10 minutes of fumbling with it, it was a no-go. There was a younger girl in her 20s on the treadmill next to me grinning, watching my wrestling match. She had completed her workout. I sheepishly looked at her and said it was my first time trying it alone, and I was obviously uncoordinated. She started to laugh, and this is where my mess up starts. I told her my hair was clean and asked if she could please help me real quick. Her eyes got very big and she said nothing. She just smiled at me and walked away. Suddenly, I realized either she was really grossed out by touching a strange guy's hair, or she thought I was trying to pick her up. I felt awful and creepy. First off, I'm a bit older than her. I'm about 56. However, I would never poach a girl in her 20s. My daughter is in her 20s. Furthermore, I think it's in poor taste to hit on women at the gym. We are all there to work out, not to score dates. I wanted to apologize, but I never saw her again. Now, I can't get this feeling of being a total old guy mouth breather out of my head. And worst of all, I still can't put my hair in a ponytail. Were you just as shocked as I was to find out that this was a 56-year-old man with this long hair? Did not expect that for the life of me. I can kind of see both sides of this. I can completely understand where this guy's coming from, where he feels like he scared this lady off, all because he asked her to put his hair in a ponytail. Because I think this guy said it best. You don't go to the gym to try and pick up a date. It's weird, it's awkward, and you can come off as a creep really quickly. I think your best solution would be to see if you can put your hair up in a hat somehow, or to maybe get that 20-something-year-old daughter of yours to help you figure out how to put your hair in a ponytail instead of some random woman at the gym. Overall though, I think this could have gone a lot worse, and I would personally be thanking my lucky stars that I never saw that lady again, because the awkward memories would have flooded back, and your time at the gym would probably be spoiled. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for being willing to testify against my dad in court? So sometime last year, I was asked by my mom if I was willing to testify in court that I never stayed at my dad's house for as long as they had been divorced. And well, here's how it went. My dad was taking my mom to court in a custody battle over my younger siblings. I was over 18 years old at the time, so it wouldn't be relevant to me. He was only doing this so he could pay less child support, which will be important later. So my parents got divorced in 2015 due to my dad's cheating and constant mental and emotional abuse, with a dash of gaslighting on the side. My mom has the majority of the custody, taking 2 weeks to my dad's 1, and then later to my dad just getting every other holiday and summers. My parents settled the child support personally without lawyers involved for some reason, probably to save money or something like that. And that was that. That is until my mom started to request a little more money because what she was getting was such a little amount, as my dad had been decreasing the amount he paid as the years went by. It eventually got to the point where my dad sued my mom over custody of the kids so he wouldn't have to pay more, which is dumb because paying for kids full time is most probably more expensive. So with the trial approaching, my mom asked if I would be willing to testify over a video call, and I agreed. Ever since I learned that my dad cheated on my mom, it's been very difficult to like him, and what made it even more difficult was hearing how even now he's cruel to her and is aggressive towards her still, even when she moved to another state. So I still don't know how, but my dad found out that I was asked to testify, and he texted me to ask me about it. He asked if my mom asked me to testify, and I tell him yes she did, to which he immediately goes, "I don't think it's right to have your own son testify against you, do you?" To which I tell him that it isn't a matter of right or wrong. He claims it is wrong and asks why I would do it. I just tell him I'm not going to have a debate about it. He then goes on a rant about how he deserves to know why his own son would do it, to which I tell him this is the exact reason why I didn't want to tell him. His reaction to knowing would be aggressive. He then tells me to be a man, tell him straight up, and that he can take it. I just tell him I'm not doing it because I hate him and that he is just overthinking it. I then ask why he's bringing masculinity into it, to which he denies having done, saying it's just a saying. The conversation goes like that for a little longer until he says, "I forgive you for whatever you do, always love you," to which I respond, okay, and then I stop stopped texting him. A few days later, the trial comes about, and I am not asked to take the stand, virtually that is, and the court rules in my mom's favor, ordering my dad to pay the legal amount of child support, which turns out he was paying far less than he should have been. So the entire time he was trying to get out of paying child support, he also ended up paying a bit more than he would have otherwise. Plus, all of the back pay he was due. On top of that, he was also forced to pay for my mom's lawyer as well. So for him, the entire trial was a huge waste of money, and he won nothing. Unfortunately, my little siblings still have to spend summers there. That didn't change, and they find it miserable, but they get through it. But it's mostly a happy ending, as they don't have to spend extra time there. My dad won nothing and still pretends to care about his kids. I also don't think he even cares about the time they spend together. He just likes to make my mom upset. All he does is try to bribe my siblings with things like AirPods or a new iPhone or a little dirt bike, which doesn't work, by the way. They still hate going to his house. In the end, I didn't end up testifying against him. And even if I did need to testify, they were just going to ask me if I ever stayed there, which in all honesty is a small question, but I would have answered it. I think my dad thought I was going to say something worse than that. He couldn't have known what I was going to be asked, but his reaction to knowing what I could have done only made wanting to do it feel better. So am I the jerk in this situation? Am I the jerk for being willing to testify in court against my dad? I don't think you're a jerk at all. I think this situation is really messy overall. Your dad only took your mom to court so he didn't have to pay child support payments. It's a really scumlord thing to do because it reveals his hand completely. He's basically saying, hey, you're not worth the money, and that's directed towards his kids. It's a very telling sign when divorced parents don't want to do what they need to do for their kids, whether that's paying child support payments or even buying them simple things like shoes or clothes or food. When a parent doesn't provide that type of stuff, if they're able to, then they are, in my eyes, a terrible parent. And the way this father is acting is not indicative of being a good parent. If anything, he's just a piece of garbage, and he is a terrible father. He does not care about his kids for a second. He just wants a discount on the family that he abandoned. And kids are smart. They can see the writing on the wall. In this situation, it probably wouldn't take much for the original poster's younger siblings to see exactly which parent actually cares. Is it the mom that's doing her best to try and figure out their situation and provide them with some semblance of a childhood as well as happiness and the things they need? Or is it the father who's trying to claim custody over the kids for the sole reason so that he doesn't have to pay child support payments? In my opinion, it doesn't take a genius to see that the dad in this situation is a terrible parent. And if I was a kid dealing with this stuff, I would absolutely pick my mom over him any day of the week. So good for this original poster for choosing to stick up for their siblings, because you can bet that dad only texted them because he didn't want them to say anything that would ruin his case. Also, he can try and save a little bit of money. Today, I messed up by getting my mom and my girlfriend's mom to think that we hated each other, all while we secretly dated. And let's just say it was a mess. This happened over 8 months ago. So my girlfriend's mom and my mom worked together. They became close friends last year, and since then, they've been trying to get her daughter and I, we're both 19 years old, together and to start dating. They made a few attempts at getting us to meet, and it was really annoying. All we kept hearing was how good we would be together. We never actually met each other until she was tricked into getting a job where I worked. I had seen pictures of her, but she looked even better in person. After getting to know each other over the next 4 months, we realized we had a lot in common. The problem is we're both stubborn and didn't want to give them the satisfaction that they were right about us all along. So to repay them, we decided to pretend that we hated each other while secretly dating. If the relationship lasted a year, then we would tell them all about us. We made up a story about an argument we had one day at work. After that, we would just randomly start talking garbage about each other to our moms and then sit back and see what their reactions were. It was hilarious and made it easier for us to secretly date. But last week, we probably took the joke too far. My girlfriend was giving me some lines to say about her, and we decided to heavily imply that I wouldn't be the first guy that she spent quality time with, if you know what I mean. When I told my mom this, she told my girlfriend's mom about it. It started an argument between the two of them about how I treated her daughter horribly. Of course, my mom tried to defend me by saying she's heard all the insults my girlfriend has said about me as well. 2 days ago, we were told told that they are no longer friends. We told them the truth about our relationship, but I guess it was too late because they said some nasty stuff about each other. Now my girlfriend and I feel awful for breaking up a good friendship. We should have been honest about our relationship from the start, especially with two people who would have supported our relationship from the get-go. It's never a good feeling knowing that you ruined a friendship, but even worse that you ruined a friendship over a lie. And that's really rough because it looks like both of these moms went in on it and said some super nasty stuff that ruined their relationship completely. Which really sucks because it sounds like they were good friends to begin with. And everything got messed up over a lie. I mean, sure, I can completely understand where you're coming from, where you have your mom trying to set you up with some other girl, and these two moms are trying to work together to get you two to date. Trust me, I've been there, and yes, it can be very frustrating. But at the end of the day, you started dating. You probably should have said something in the beginning and been like, hey, you were right. But things didn't go that way. Hopefully things can work out, and hopefully your mom as well as your girlfriend's mom can become friends again, because obviously the two of you never intended for anything like this to happen. So hopefully they're able to eventually make up and get things straight again. Today I messed up by stealing what I thought was a pine cone, only to find out that it was a shark egg from an aquarium. Here's what happened. When I was really young as a child of 10 in primary school, a fun activity we used to indulge in was having a group of kids with designated locations on the playground called pine cone bases, where we would collect as many pine cones as possible and stash them there at the location of choice. There were pine trees completely circling around the oval, so during the autumn, the ground would become littered with them. We'd all collect as many as possible. When the season for pine cones passed, stealing pine cones from other bases and bringing them to your own was permitted, but you had to give it back if you were tagged. Most leaders would build diplomatic relationships with others, so there would be some semblance of peace. This did not always last, and war would break out between the groups. My base was strategically picked, where two fences met near sandwiched together, between the neighboring house and the school itself. The pine cones would slip right down between the two fences and would be secure from any thief from other groups, so naturally, we reached the top. The base with the most pine cones was considered the pinnacle of all bases, and its people were among the most elite. Hotels and holiday houses paled in comparison to the might of the master pinecone base. It demanded without question everyone's respect. My influence even allowed me to pick what the special could be for the canteen lunch. It was always chicken tenders. One day, as a school incursion, we went to the city aquarium with bingo charts and questionnaires, which we had to solve by going to each point of interest, consisting of octopi, coral, fish, sharks, and other marine wildlife and activities. We were all split into groups of 5. I was in Team Sea Urchin. As we entered one of the rooms containing many glass walls, with beautiful wildlife swimming behind them, there was a single tank in the center with the lid off, just low enough for kids to see inside. It was full of coral and bubbles, but there, right in my face and bobbing in the center, was the strangest, most sleek-looking and smoothest pine cone I'd ever seen. It was beautiful and spiral in shape. My eyes must have flared in surprise, and my mind began to rush, because before anyone had a chance to see me, I had picked it up out of the water and stuffed it into my backpack. Throughout the rest of the incursion, we continued to answer all the questions and spot the bingo charts with the fish we found. It turned out not to be a contest, but whether or not the students were engaged in the activity, so no prizes were given out. Eventually, the excursion came to a conclusion, and we all had to return to the bus. Everything seemed normal, though I was slightly a bit giddy and far too excited to return to the playground. Once we returned to school, I proudly ran across the oval and placed my beautiful, unique pine cone in the center of the rest, right between the two fences where it was certainly safe. The moment the bell rang, we all went back to our classrooms, and the teacher had yet to enter. He came in later than usual. Upon coming through the door, he was red in the face, flustered as he leaned against the chalkboard. With a strain in his voice, he said, "Does anyone know anything about a missing shark egg from the aquarium today?" Me being me at the time, I pretending nothing of it happened, though eventually my beautiful centerpiece went missing. What a crazy story, because I can 100% see a kid doing this. They go to an aquarium, they see something cool, nobody's looking, I'm gonna take it. I'm pretty sure that shark egg probably did not survive the trip, so I'm not sure if it was like an exhibit or something, but I really hope that wasn't a live shark inside that egg waiting to be born. Overall, this story is really funny, and it makes me want to collect pine cones episodes just a little bit more. My entitled sister-in-law ruins a family visit. I was dreading my recent visit to my parents' house because my entitled brother and my entitled sister-in-law overrun the house with all their stuff and expect anyone who's around to watch their kids. Unfortunately though, this is nothing new. My sister-in-law was in week 3 or 4 of a cold, so she took frequent naps and just left her 4 and 7-year-old girls to do whatever they wanted, assuming that somebody was going to watch them. The kids got up super early, around 6 or 7 in the morning. Meanwhile, my sister-in-law and my brother sleep in until 9 o'clock. Then she goes downstairs to nap from 12 to 3. Then my entitled brother just tells me to watch the kids, not even asking me. He was supposed to be helping my dad and my husband with a chore, so he was excused. I asked where their mother was and was told that she was napping. Even better, we all had to be quiet while she slept. So I'm now responsible for watching her kids, but also I have to make sure that they are perfectly quiet while they scream about where mommy is. Another fun thing is our daughter is a teenager, and the little girls run her ragged and don't respect her privacy in the slightest, especially when she's trying to sleep or even use the bathroom. If those spoiled children are awake, they're screaming for her. Also, my entitled sister refuses to let the kids have any devices, so they have to be entertained 24/7. They are allowed to watch Disney, but my dad used their account on his television, and my sister-in-law refused to tell my dad her password and insisted that he let her put it in. He's 80 years old. It's not like he's gonna steal her password to her Disney account. On the 4th, we set off some fireworks, and I was filming and playing some fireworks music on my phone. My sister-in-law tells me I'm not allowed to play the 1812 overture. I picked Ray Charles' God Bless America because I thought it was a safe bet, but I forgot that my entitled sister-in-law is a rabid atheist. About a minute into the song, she says, "That's enough of that." I was absolutely floored. Not to mention that she, as well as my brother, are 10 years younger than me. Most of my videos have her yelling at the girls to stay on the blanket. They also demanded dinner at 6 o'clock on the dot and complained until it was served. But of course, they didn't do anything to help my 80-year-old mom to fix it, who, by the way, had a knee replacement surgery and just walks around with a limp. I have never seen anybody act this extra around family, but my mom never says anything to them. Instead, she says it behind their back and wishes that they would improve their behavior. It's a really sad situation because I know the type of parents you're talking about. They come over, they storm the house, then they drop their kids off and say, "Hey, it's your problem now." It's super inconsiderate, especially when you didn't ask the person in the first place of, "Hey, can you watch my kids?" It sounds like the sister-in-law as well as your brother are super lazy. They need to get off their butt and raise their own kids. And personally, if I was in your situation, I would stop watching the kids. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna let them run outside or anything like that, or get into anything that could possibly hurt them or anything like that. But there's no way on earth I'm gonna sit there and be forced to babysit kids I don't want to babysit. That's not fair for me or anybody else around. So personally, that's what I would do if I was in your shoes. But also, it will probably do you as well as your parents a lot of good if you step up and say something. You shouldn't have to deal with this kind of behavior, and it's completely inappropriate as well as irresponsible to allow it to happen. Setting up boundaries and putting your foot down is not a bad thing. Sometimes people like this need that type of information for them to realize, oh, I'm being a piece of garbage. Otherwise, you're just enabling this behavior. And by not saying anything, you're basically saying, yeah, you can act like this. And who knows, maybe with some healthy boundaries, the entitled sister-in-law and your brother might clean up their act and probably be a little bit better potentially. You never know unless you try. My entitled cousin thinks she has the right to hold my newborn baby despite me telling her no multiple times. Things got bad very quickly when she simply would not take no for an answer. Here's what happened. I'm a first-time mom, and now that my baby is 4 months old, I felt comfortable starting to go around family and friends. We had a family reunion this past weekend, and I was excited to see my family that I haven't seen in a year. Before the trip, I made sure to ask around who was vaccinated and who was not, so I would know who I would be comfortable with around my baby. For those who were not vaccinated, I just had my husband take the baby and socialize while social distancing, which would hopefully be no big deal. That is until my cousin steps into the picture. This cousin is someone I don't talk to. She is someone who has been incredibly mean to me in the past, all because I am younger than her. She is also incredibly irresponsible and has 5 kids that she lost custody to because she was a terrible parent, she was neglectful, and those kids behaved so badly that the person that took custody of them couldn't handle them, so the kids just float around since my cousin refuses to parent or discipline them. My dad described it as a baby raising 5 babies. It's a sad situation, but it doesn't excuse her being a terrible parent. So this cousin walks up to me and says, "Let me hold your baby." I just look at her and say, "What?" She then repeats herself, "Let me hold your baby. I want to hold him." I look at her and I laugh nervously and I just say, "No, no thank you." She then gets pretty aggressive at this point and goes, "No, let me hold him. Give him here." She then reaches out and tries to touch my son. I thankfully lean away and block her with my shoulder before she can touch him. I say, "No, I don't want you to hold him. People keep asking me and I said no." She then tries to go with this rationale of, "I let you hold mine when they were babies. You have to let me hold yours." As a side note, she didn't let me hold her baby. She put them on my lap and left the house and didn't come back. I had to call my dad to find her parents to come take the baby because I had no idea what to do since I was like 15 at the time. I responded back and said, "I don't want you to hold him." So this entitled cousin storms off and goes to my husband, thinking she's gonna get a different response. She says, "Can I hold your baby?" At this point, I was incredibly pissed off because I had already said no. My husband looks at her deadpan and says, "Are you vaccinated?" My entitled cousin then goes off on a rant that none of us are really surprised about. She says, "Yes, no, I don't believe in the corona. It's a man-made disease and I don't know anyone who's gotten it." Fun fact, her mom has gotten it 3 times and was sitting next to us. She then basically goes on this long rant sitting on her soapbox, claiming that COVID isn't real. My husband just takes it like a champ and doesn't even react. He just simply says, "Then no, you can't hold the baby." And that was enough for her to finally leave us alone. But I thought this was the end of it. But when I woke up in the morning, I saw several messages sent to me over social media with this entitled cousin acting furious. But oh well, I can't help her. A baby is a person, and honestly, you're not gonna play with it like it's a toy. This cousin is absolutely crazy because when a mom says you can't hold my baby, guess what? You can't hold her baby. It's not up for debate. You don't go to the husband. You step back, honor their wishes, and get lost. And especially with kids who are just recently born, I don't blame these parents for a second for being incredibly selective around who they want their kid around. Because a sick baby is a miserable baby and a miserable family. And I, for one, would not want anyone getting my kid sick, all because of their terrible personal decisions. So next time, hopefully this cousin learns their lesson and respects the mother's wishes that no, you can't hold my baby. An entitled man demands to be let out of a parking lot that explicitly states they're closing for 4th of July fireworks. Things got so bad that the police had to get involved. First, some backstory. My mom is the director of operations at a well-known restaurant in our small town. The town is located near a lake, so the restaurant has a dock so boats can come in. There's also a bridge that goes over the lake to another part of town. Every year on the 4th of July, all of the roads near the restaurant, including the bridge, are closed off so no vehicles can go through as the fireworks take place over the lake itself. There are always a few people every year who don't quite understand this and are trapped until the roads are reopened after the fireworks. So my brother and I are sitting in the outside portion of the restaurant eating our food. The fireworks start in about 2 hours. It was incredibly busy, as expected during the 4th of July, and the restaurant was selling VIP seats to view the fireworks. All of a sudden, I heard someone behind me scream, "I am going to sue this establishment." I almost immediately turned around, surprised by what I just heard. It was a man probably 40 to 50 years old. He had sunglasses on, a backwards USA cap, a blue long-sleeve shirt, swim shorts, and some sandals. It turns out he was trapped by the 8 p.m. cutoff line for getting out, as the roads had just been closed down for the fireworks show. He literally said, "I demand to see a supervisor." That's when my mom enters the picture, who is confused as to what is going on. She confronted the man, who said his complaints to her. She says that he's out of luck and that the roads were closed off by the police. The man did not like this and accused the restaurant for not informing their guests properly. He stormed off and approached a few police officers who were nearby. They told him the exact same thing. He said that he had 2 kids that he was unable to get to, even though his wife and 2 kids were literally sitting in his truck behind him. More police officers arrived, as they were just down the street. My mom was now talking to the police at this point, as now they were getting both sides of the story. After a bit, the chief of police showed up. This entitled man made a very bold move and demanded that the chief of police unblock the roads just for him. Keep in mind, there are hundreds of people on the streets walking onto the bridge, so the chief told him straight up, no, that's not happening. That's that's when the man's story changed completely. Before, his story was that he couldn't reach his kids, but now, all of a sudden, he said that his father was suddenly hospitalized and he needed to leave immediately. At this point, everyone was fed up with this guy's baloney. And guess what? Newsflash, the restaurant had a sign out front warning the people that come into the restaurant that about 8 p.m. would be the cutoff time. My mom then chimed in and said, "I'm sorry, can you see this sign over here?" The man then said that what? If you don't leave by 8, you're gonna be trapped? More arguing ensued, and now this man wanted my mom to reverse his credit card transaction for his entire meal because it would make him feel better. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see the rest of the chaos as we went to sit somewhere else. But after the fireworks ended, guess who I saw in a front row seat of the fireworks show? That's right, this entitled man-child, his wife, and his 2 kids. You know, the ones he claimed he couldn't get in contact with. He was so worried about getting out of the parking lot, and all of a sudden he's okay with it. Thankfully, he left soon after as the roads reopened, and hopefully we never see him at our restaurant ever again. I honestly can't stand people like this. They make a big scene and then they pretend like, hey, heaven and earth needs to move to meet my needs. People like this become so entitled so quickly, pretending like they're the VIP in everybody else's restaurant. That is some serious main character syndrome if I've ever seen it. You've got to move all these people because I want to leave. No, it doesn't work like that. You're going to wait like everybody else, and then you can leave when the fireworks are done and the roads open up. Obviously, they didn't get their way, and I'm kind of glad the police chief showed up and put him in its place. My boyfriend fabricated his entire previous relationship, and I could not be more shocked. I started dating a guy a couple of years ago. When we talked about our exes, he said he had one girlfriend before, someone he dated for around 9 months, and they split because they had different ideas of life. I quickly realized a few weeks ago that something was odd about him. It felt like he had zero relationship experience. Pretty much all of our interactions made me believe that he didn't understand normal relationship things. I had to explain everything to him. It was like dating a teenage boy. Mind you, this man is in his 30s. Things then got really bad really quickly. He started shouting at me all the time and hurling insults whenever he could. I started to wonder if his previous girlfriend was also treated this way and how she had managed to cope with his situation. After considering it for a while, I reached out to this supposed ex to see if he had treated her the same way. Her response completely shocked me. She said she had never dated him. They were only friends and they had never even touched or kissed each other. I am honestly disgusted. He told me intimate details about them, about all the quality time they spent together, and told me she cried when they broke up. But it turns out it was all literally a lie. It now makes me confirm that I was indeed his first relationship. This lady told me that they were friends and that's all they ever were, and she blocked him because of his weird behavior. And honestly, I believe it. I feel completely creeped out and disgusted. She was shocked too and sounded disgusted as well that he would make up an entire relationship. I honestly had no idea he was lying. None at all. I thought it was all real. Needless to say, I was completely blown away, and I'm glad this relationship did not work out. What a complete weirdo. This guy completely made up some relationship he had with this previous lady, claiming that she was his previous girlfriend and that they had spent all this time together getting to know each other and then some. And for some reason felt the need to explain this away to the current woman that he's dating, only for it all to be a complete and utter lie. That is so creepy, I don't even know what to say. I bet you that the reason why he made up this imaginary girlfriend was that so people wouldn't know that he's never actually been in a relationship before. It could not be more obvious that this is his first relationship. I mean, how do you think that woman must have felt when she's messaged by the original poster with the ridiculous statement that she had dated this guy? I would personally be completely horrified if that was me. So hopefully you dumped this guy pretty quickly and you got away from this weirdo. Because while there's nothing wrong with having a first relationship later in life, in contrast, there is something extremely wrong if you're gonna make up a relationship at the expense of a lady who clearly wants nothing to do with you and your weird behavior. And honestly, I don't blame her. My boyfriend of 2 months went camping with another woman and lied to me about it. What should I do? We've only been dating for about 2 months, but things seem to have been going really well. And I actually let him meet my kid, which is a big deal for me. And I've met his kids a few times as well. He told me last weekend was supposed to be a guy's camping weekend, but one guy bailed, so the other guy brought his wife. I wondered why he didn't invite me if it was another couple, but I had plans anyways, so I didn't put too much stock into it, thinking I had maybe mentioned my plans and that's why he didn't invite me. So he got a text message last night in the middle of asking me to look at his Apple Watch for something, and he swiped it away really fast. And I've been through this before, so I was really suspicious of that. Today after work, I looked at his Facebook profile to see if I could find a friend of his with the names on the text, as that's all I was able to see. I saw her profile, and it had pictures of the same campsite he had sent me. The same tent, the same 2 chairs, the same cooler, the same case of beer, and she's single, noted right on her profile. So I looked closer at the pictures he sent me, and it's pretty obvious it was just the 2 of them camping together. So that also makes it pretty clear that he lied to me about who was with him. I want to be clear that I looked at both their public profiles. I in no way have access to any of his devices or his passwords. So nothing was done by snooping here, just good old-fashioned research. He and I have been making plans for later in the summer to go camping with the kids, so I thought this was actually going somewhere. You don't usually make this kind of plans with someone you don't see sticking around in your life. I would never have introduced him to my kid if I thought he wasn't serious about me. And now I feel kind of creepy about doing the same activity with him that he has been so shady and dishonest about in regards to this other woman. I obviously have to talk to him about it, but I don't even know if I want to see him again. Would it be out of line for me to just text him the screenshots of the pictures I saw and leave it at that? Or do I owe him an in-person conversation? What should I do? From personal experience, if a significant other is lying to me, even this early into a relationship, I mean, she's only been seeing him for 2 months. That's a big red flag to me, and that's super not okay. I would personally have a conversation with my significant other and say, hey, I know you lied to me, and I kind of want to know the truth. With my intentions being that if you don't say the right things, we're breaking up. Obviously, all of this kind of depends on the situation, as well as who it is that you're actually dating. But after 2 months in, this guy's already lying about going camping with another woman by themselves is not something personally I would want to deal with. And you introduce your kid to this guy. I honestly think for the sake of your kid, it's probably time to cut this guy loose and find somebody else, because having a liar for a boyfriend is not worth it, especially when your kids are going to be affected by it. My girlfriend of 4 years kissed a much older coworker that she has a crush on, and I honestly don't know what to do about it. My girlfriend and I have been dating for 4 years and a few months now. I came home today to a written list of things that I've been doing that make her feel unfulfilled and lonely. She has mentioned these things in the past. I've been distant recently because I've been down in the dumps about a back injury that prevented me from physical activity. I spin out of my healthy routine and slip into drinking on weeknights, playing video games for hours on end, and just not being emotionally there. I also neglected chores more often, which I had been pretty good about up until now. She's reading off the paper and gets to the last point. She tells me to listen to her fully and not get angry, but that if I am angry and never want to see her again, she understands. At this point, my guts drop in my stomach. I know how this goes. Her coworker, who's maybe 40 to 50 years old, has been crushing on her, and she admitted that she had a crush on him too. But it wasn't anything because they're coworkers and he's much older, which honestly to me is just wrong. They had a pool day for their office, and she stayed there all day until midnight. It was at this guy's house too. Everyone left and it was just the 2 of them. She goes to leave and they stop at the door. He goes in for a kiss and she just lets it happen. Not just lets it happen though, she leans into it and grabs his neck while he's grabbing her waist. No idea how long, but she eventually says that this is wrong and leaves to come home. I was at a trade show for work all day, so I'm asleep by then, but had been texting her while she was there, saying stuff like, I hope you're having a good time, as well as saying, I love you and I'll see you at home. This happened June 25th, and she told me today on July 5th. After we got back from our vacation in Denver, she didn't want to spoil the trip. She is claiming responsibility for it, but is also blaming it on me for my new drinking habits as well as my depression that I've been struggling with, as well as saying it was because I made her feel lonely and this guy gave her attention. We have a year left on our lease and 2 cats who are like children to me. I still love her. I want it to work out, but I also feel like maybe I can't trust her, and maybe she truly wants out but doesn't have the guts to tell me. I'm honestly so lost right now, and I'm so incredibly hurt, but this woman is my best friend. I don't know how to live without her. What should I do? First off, this is not your fault. You are not the reason she decided to kiss her coworker. She is. She is trying to pin this situation on you so she doesn't feel guilty about cheating on you. Which, by the way, she cheated on you. That's exactly what just happened. If she had any sense about her, she would have said, no, I have a boyfriend at home, and would have left after that. But no, she was not loyal and she did not care. There are so many red flags here too. Like if you were feeling depressed after an injury and you're sad because you're not as physical as you used to be, why would she not be there for you? On the contrary, she just wrote up a list of all the things you're not doing and that she's just saying, oh, I'm unhappy about it. Which then begs the question, how is her being unhappy then suddenly lead to her kissing her coworker? Like, that's just absolutely ridiculous. It's so manipulative for her to try and blame this all on you for something that she clearly did that it's not even funny. I understand that you think she's your best friend, but guess what? She's not. In my opinion, she does not see you in the same light, clearly. So I wish you the best of luck in whatever you decide to do with this relationship, because based on what you've shown us, she does not care about you nearly as much as you think. My sister is financially struggling, and I want to help her even though this is all her fault. What should I do? I honestly don't even know where to begin with this. When my sister was in her early 20s, she met this girl at her job. After a month of dating, my sister ran away from home to be with her and hid in our uncle's home for months without us knowing she was 2 minutes away from the house. Of course, my mom was super angry that her own brother didn't tell her my sister was there with her girlfriend. But my mom got over it and, well, what could she do? When my sister ran away, she had no money, nothing. She was working at a fast food restaurant and just left with no money in her pockets. After she left my uncle's house, her and her girlfriend were bouncing around homes, living with her girlfriend's different family members until they eventually found a house to rent. My sister has never had stable jobs. They have all been temporary type jobs, and her girlfriend doesn't work. She just stays at home instead of helping my sister out. Every now and then, her girlfriend will pick up a job, but she'll stay for like a month before quitting. Anyway, my sister has never been financially stable because she just can't save money because her girlfriend doesn't help out. My sister has been behind on rent many times. She has a lot of things that are in collections right now, and she hasn't had gas in her home for who knows how long, which is something that we just found out. She owes like $400 also on her phone bill right now, and it's about to cut off today. Here are just a few examples of how she has poor money management skills. A few years ago, she knew she was going to be out of a job in a week and went ahead and bought a $30,000 truck. She would also travel around our state so her girlfriend could get those Instagram-worthy pictures because she just needs validation from everyone else, even though she didn't have the money for traveling. She would also skip out on paying bills because she needed to get another credit card to buy Christmas presents for her girlfriend's family. When they're really tight on money, she gets really angry at my parents because my parents tell her to tell her girlfriend to get a job so that they can afford their own bills. And these are just a few of the examples that I can remember off the top of my head. Yesterday, she told me she was so broke right now that she almost became homeless. She told me she only had $80 for the rest of the week and it was going to be for gasoline for her big truck. You know, the one she bought a week before her job ended. She told me her girlfriend applied for unemployment, but she hasn't gotten her unemployment money yet, and they didn't have any money for food. Sometimes I feel guilty because my husband and I make a lot of money, and I feel like I need to help my sister. I feel like I need to buy her groceries or something. Also, I wanted to mention, my sister is always asking my mom for money. My mom is always letting her borrow money that she never pays back. My sister probably owes my mom thousands of dollars at this point. It bothers me that when my sister needs money, my mom always gives her the money. My sister needs to learn her lesson, but she doesn't, because when she needs money, my mom is always there to give it to her. What should I do? It is definitely not your fault that your sister makes terrible financial decisions. And it doesn't help that she's got a girlfriend who does not do anything to assist the situation. She doesn't even have a job to pay for bills. I mean, come on. It's time to get off your butt and get to work. That's not how the real world works. You can't just sit around and let mommy and daddy take care of everything. You gotta get things going yourself. Otherwise, you'll never be truly independent. If I was in the original poster's shoes, I absolutely would not give any money to this sister because she's just gonna spend it all and then come back asking for more. You don't want to set up that kind of precedent that she can then come to you like she comes to her mom, always asking for money and always asking for assistance on things that she could very easily get a job and figure out herself. On a personal note, I know exactly what it's like to go without money, to have $80 for the rest of the week and wondering how you're going to get your next meal. So I'm no stranger to knowing how poor you can actually be and how desperate things can get. But to enable your sister is not helping her. It's not the case where your sister has fallen on hard times because of unexpected circumstances. These are literally situations she's found herself in all because of her own choice to not work, as well as to be with a partner who who does not work. If you keep giving her money, nothing's gonna change. It is quite literally only delaying the inevitable. So yeah, don't give her any money. She'll learn this lesson the hard way, and I think it's gonna come much quicker than you think. An entitled Karen cuts in line in front of an entire store full of people and decides to make a scene when she doesn't get what she wants. And after hearing just about enough of her yelling and screaming, I decided to speak up and put her in her place. This is what happened. I recently relocated and moved 2 time zones east and had the luck to fly in at midnight during the last of an early summer storm with my 3-month-old son. I had a hard time coming down from the adrenaline of landing, and to say that I was exhausted when I went to pick up my equipment for internet service the next day would be an understatement. This particular internet shop had this very clever digital waiting list that showed the first name of who was next to be served. I was delighted to realize that I had arrived while a majority of the staff was at lunch. Oh well, I had 45 minutes to my appointment at the leasing office of my new apartment. I sat down at the table and waited for my turn. Not long after I settled myself, another woman walked in and started looking around wildly. Somehow she caught my eye and asked if I was in line. I nodded and pointed at the tablet she was standing in front of and told her to put her name down. She looked around wildly for a few minutes before putting her name down and stepping fully into the store. There were clusters of people around, and this lady wandered over to every cluster that wasn't being helped by an associate, attempting to group people together who were not together. She tried to convince a poor woman across the store that she was in fact there with me for several minutes. My sleep-deprived brain decided to laser focus on this lady because I knew something was about to happen. She was too aggressive to accept her place in the line. She finally stalks up to a register where an associate is helping a different customer and thrusts an Ethernet cable at him.
"Do you remember me? It still won't work."
The entitled woman shouted this at the employee. She was maybe 2 or 3 feet away from this poor man and actually elbowed the customer aside. He stuttered an apology to the customer he was helping and turned to the cabinet behind him and thrust a brand new cable at her. But this woman wasn't satisfied though. No, someone had to take the old cable and dispose of it for her. Luckily, one of the other employees had come back from break and apparently had some guts in him because she said, "Ma'am, you can throw your own cable away." She had to repeat herself because the harpy took several seconds to refocus on the new target. She got to skip the line. She harassed some people. She should be ready to go, right? No, of course not. They simply had to dispose of the cable for her immediately. Also, a side note, there is no way she would have thrown away the new cord. It was nicely coiled and it looked brand new. The old one was floppy and gray. I shifted and forced my spine to straighten, fixating on her with the kind of stare only someone deprived of sleep, the way parents are with infants, and loudly screamed, "Hey lady, you've harassed everyone here, gotten what you wanted, and skipped the line we've all been waiting in. Get out. I have another appointment at 2 and you're slowing things down for the rest of us." After that, she turned and left without another word. I did apologize to the associate for yelling like that, but I have no regrets. I hope her internet is forever slow and her Netflix always buffers. It is so good to see this kind of Karen karma come slamming down on someone who deserved it. This lady cut in line just to make a scene, and that is so disrespectful. That's awesome that the original poster had the guts to stand up and say, "You know what? Enough is enough. It is time for you to go." And I will also note that it is awesome having a coworker who would stand up and say, "Hey, throw away your own cord." Because honestly, that's all you have to do. The floppy gray one that this lady was swinging around this store like a dead fish very easily could be thrown into any trash can. More specifically, in her own trash can. So to act like this is some kind of travesty, as if you can't take care of this yourself, is just really weird. So thankfully, this Karen got what she deserved, and I also agree with the original poster. I hope for the sake of her being so entitled that her internet is constantly slow for the rest of eternity. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen demanded me to change the recipe for some cookies. And when I told her that we haven't changed the recipe in over 30 years, she freaked out and demanded a refund. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old male working in a Jewish bakery. And a little spoiler if you want to call it that, the recipe in question was the same recipe it's always been for the past 30 years since the bakery's been running. For the past 3 years I've worked at this place. This was what I was told. And with that, here's what happened. The incident in question happened an hour prior to me posting this. But before we get to that, let's go back about 1 week. Last week, I received a phone call somewhere about an hour before closing time. I answered the phone, and on the other end of the line was a very unhappy customer.
Hi, are you the owner of this place?"
I answered and said, "No." She then responds by saying,
saying, well, tell the owner that this cookie I bought from you guys is just absolutely awful.
For reference, this type of cookie is a soft Jewish cookie with fruit filling in the middle, or at least that was how I interpreted it. I replied asking what was wrong with it, and she said,
you guys must have changed something with this recipe. My sister is a chef. We know what it should taste like, and this isn't it.
I told her that it's been the same recipe for 30 years, but she was still not believing me for a second. Before I could get the rest out, she then said,
my sister will come over next week for a refund, and you better explain what's going on.
I complied, and that was that. Fast forward to present day. So here I was, preparing today's order and slicing bread. Then in came this entitled Karen's sister. She looked to be reaching her late 60s or early 70s. She had that friendly appearance, but she was far from friendly, which I was about to find out. She stood there, tapping her fingers on the counter, and I asked, how can I help you? And she immediately barked at me, saying,
oh, you know, you're nasty cookie tasted like garbage. My sister called a week ago, and she demands to know what is going on. You changed the recipe, didn't you?
I told her the exact same thing I told her sister the week prior, and just like her sister, she didn't believe me for a second.
No, you changed something, I am sure of it. You tell the new owner to use the original recipe. I've been coming here for 30 years, and we know what it should taste like, and this isn't it.
Me, being a non-confrontational person by nature, decided to just let her have her way and gave her a refund. Honestly, it was $6 and it was worth it. Before she left, she again reminded me to tell the boss to change back to the original recipe. So eventually, my boss arrives and I tell him the story, and he and I shared a good laugh, and he tells me that this person always says that whenever she comes in here. In the 3 years I've worked here, I know for a fact my boss never changed it, because he has said many times that it would confuse him if he did any alterations. So I know he's telling the truth. All in all, that's a Karen experience I won't soon forget. Some people are clearly very passionate about cookies. How crazy do you have to be to buy a cookie and be like, oh my god, they changed the recipe, and then confront some poor hourly worker and be like, give me my money back? Like, that's another level of unhinged crazy that you don't get to see very often. I feel really bad for this original poster because they took it like a champ and just said, here, just take the $6, please. The silver lining though is that this guy now knows who to look out for and can keep an eye out to try and push a new person up to deal with this crazy Karen when she comes up demanding money back for the cookies. My entitled coworker waited for hours for my shift to end, so I would drive her home even after I said no. I work at a library, and I work in the children's department along with older coworkers, with some teenage employees scattered in the mix. I've been working there since high school, which is how I know Sarah. That's not her real name. To put it bluntly, Sarah and I are not friends. We used to be friendly back in high school, as we had a couple of the same friends, and we've been working at our job for years. I would definitely not call us friends currently though, due to Sarah's attitude. She's that type of person who will ask for a favor, and if you refuse, she will treat you like garbage and act like a complete jerk. Once in high school, she asked me for a ride home, but I said no, as I had a track meet and something that day and obviously could not take her. She huffed and stormed off, glaring at me for like a week before she came back like nothing had happened and asked me for a ride home again. It's clear too that she doesn't really see us as friends, as when we work together, she'll ignore me completely or just glare at me, only talking to me if it's something that involves her job or if it's something that she needs. If she needs something from me, then suddenly we're best friends again, and she'll chat with me like nothing happened. So yeah, I don't really like her. To the main story, I came to work yesterday at about 2:30, and Sarah was there. Our shifts alternate slightly, where there's like an hour where the two of us are both working before she leaves, and I continue my shift. I hadn't seen her since we graduated, so we spent a few minutes catching up. She then asked me if I could take her home after her shift ended. I was obviously confused, as I still had hours to go before I was done with mine, and I even told her this. She then implied that I could use my break time to drive her, and I honestly laughed out loud because I thought she was joking. For reference, our breaks are about 15 minutes long, and and it would take 30 minutes to drive there and back from her home without traffic. In fact, realistically, it would end up taking like 45 to 60 minutes because of how heavy traffic is in our area. And also, who wants to spend their time driving someone home? Sarah was shockingly not joking though, claiming that it would be doable and that she really needed the ride because she had to be home and her mom couldn't take her. I said no, sorry, but no way that's happening. Sarah stormed off and ignored me for the rest of her shift, all before she left. Or at least that's what I thought she did. I didn't think much more of the situation, and in fact, I was a little amused at her audacity, but whatever. Eventually, my time to leave comes up, so I wave bye to my coworkers and I head outside. That's when I see Sarah sitting outside on one of the benches. She immediately perked up after seeing me, running over while I just looked at her. "You're leaving, right? Can you give me a ride?" I was so shocked. I flat out asked her if she had been waiting for practically 4 hours for me to leave, even after I said no. She said that no, she walked to our nearby town to do other things before she came back here, but in my opinion, that still counts as her waiting for me to give her a ride. I was creeped out and honestly incredibly angry, since it felt like to me that she was trapping me and playing the "you're leaving so you can take me too" card. It took everything in me not to yell or even book it to my car. I calmly told her that I had plans after work and that no, I could not take her, and honestly thought it was insane that she would just wait around and assume that I would take her instead of getting the message and calling someone else. She just stared at me, and I think she was a bit shocked that I actually stood up to her. With that, I walked to my car and drove off. I really hope she never tries to do that to me or any of my coworkers ever again. This Sarah lady really thought she had it all figured out. She thought she could wait around and try and trap you into driving her home, instead of, I don't know, calling an Uber, calling someone to pick her up, walking home. 4 hours have passed. Does she have nothing else to do? If I was in the original poster situation, I 100% would have reported her to the head librarian. This is straight up workplace harassment. This is not okay. This is also not high school anymore. These types of behaviors and actions have consequences. And the fact that you are being stalked out in the parking lot by this lady to say, "Hey, give me a ride home," is absolutely crazy and absolutely not acceptable. You told her no, and that should have been the end of it. So good for you for sticking up for yourself and telling her to get lost. And the next time you go into work, tell your boss exactly what happened, because this behavior is unacceptable and it's not something you should ever deal with. My girlfriend went to a concert with her coworkers and claimed it was a work event. My girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years and have a solid relationship. We recently moved in together not too long ago. She has a coworker that she claims to not like and complains about how cringy and inappropriate he can be. This coworker was hired at the same time as her in a student placement program. They share an office and collaborate on quite a bit of work. She has work events pretty often, just because of the field she is in. Dinners, charity events, stuff like that. After the last event, she came home with one of those quick sketch pictures you can get at places like Disney World, depicting her as well as this coworker. She said they plan on putting it up in their office. She talks often about this coworker, sometimes speaking positively, but mostly speaking negatively about him. He posts pictures often and gets her to take the photos for him all the time at work, and mentions her on his social media quite a bit. He paid an Instagram account $50 to post a picture with a custom message to her. Now my girlfriend comes home and says she has a dinner and concert to go to this weekend, and that she is going with this coworker and the company has paid for it. I thought it sounded weird, but I just accepted it. The next night, she is on the phone with her friend, and I hear that the company didn't pay for the concert tickets and that he had spared a ticket and invited her. She told her friend on the phone that it sucks she has to go with him and that she'll just go and do her own thing. She was fully aware I heard this conversation. I'm definitely not the jealous type, but I actually feel concerned about this situation. This coworker is single and she's told me before he is actively looking for a relationship. I feel like he has a crush on her, given everything he is doing. Should I see this as a problem for my relationship? And how should I approach this situation with my girlfriend? I hate to be the guy to jump to conclusions, but it really sounds like she is lying about the nature of their relationship. Like, this totally sounds like a date. I hope I'm not crazy in saying that. She is going with another coworker who is also a man that has a crush on her, as well as going to dinner with this coworker, all in the same night. Like, there's very clearly more to this story that she is just not telling you. And it's not fair for you at all. Like, it seems like the original poster in this situation is being very naive. This guy is not her friend. This guy also spent $50 to have a message sent out to this lady over Instagram. Like, you don't don't do that unless there's some kind of ulterior motive. Like, you shouldn't be spending money posting messages about someone else's significant other. That's just weird. So in my opinion, this guy is not just a friend. I think there's a lot more going on based on what you're describing. And if I were you, I would definitely put my foot down about this whole situation and say, hey, I know you're lying about the concert. I know for a fact your company's not paying for this. And I have suspicions that you're slowly cheating on me with your cringy coworker who you swear you don't like. Which, by the way, it kind of seems like she does. All of the red flags are quite literally in front of you. And I really hope you're able to see them and act on them, because you deserve a lot better than this. My girlfriend of 4 years has been uninvited to my brother's wedding by his fiance. My 4-year relationship has been rocky the last 6 months. We're still living together, but she's been uninvited to my brother's wedding next month, even though I'm the best man. Last summer, my girlfriend and I bought a house together, and things were absolutely perfect. We lived with each other at our parents' houses during the COVID pandemic, and so it wasn't anything new. Most likely, it sped up the decision for us to buy a house together, as it worked really well living together. In the months leading up to the next moving date, we knew a puppy was on the way for my girlfriend's family dog. Within 2 days of moving in, we also had a puppy. She's a great dog, and I love her to bits. For the next few months, things were swimmingly. We were decorating the house and generally very excited with this huge lifestyle change. Fast forward a few months around November time, and I noticed things weren't quite right. There was far less affection, and she just wasn't her usual happy self. I picked up on this and tried to talk to her and support her. I knew she had been attending counseling sessions since before the summer so that she could try to deal with her and her mom's relationship. As a side note, her mom wasn't a very good parent when she was younger. No affection, little support, and generally just not very kind. We spoke about all of this, and she was finding everything a little heavy and difficult and was trying to get through it. I was very supportive and tried to just generally help out a bit more around the house, just to try and cheer her up. Unfortunately, things kept going downhill, and by Christmas, she has basically said to me she didn't know what she wanted. She was unsure about her career as well as me. This was a massive shock to me, but I kept being supportive and helping her, as I still thought there was a chance things could work out. Over the next few months, I carried on supporting her, making dinner, washing up, just generally helping out, as I knew she was very stressed and struggling with her job. I even helped her change her career. She never really enjoyed nursing, and did it predominantly because it's what her mom wanted rather than what she wanted. Through all of this, I felt it was quite a hostile environment. We were sleeping in separate rooms, and there was next to no physical connection, maybe the occasional hug. It didn't really feel friendly anymore. I was finding it extra tough that the dog was getting so much attention and myself none. This had been going on for about 6 months. It finally got to the point where I couldn't really see things changing, and I told her this about a month ago. Both of us were very upset with this, but to me, it wasn't a situation I wanted to carry on living with. The next day, she came back to me saying she knows exactly what she wants now, and she's 100% in. Obviously, I was very skeptical about this. However, over the next week or so, I did see huge improvements in friendliness and effort. The last few weeks, things have been okay. There was a little dip when I went to the pub and forgot about my dog's dinner, which I fully accepted that it was my fault and that a dog is a huge responsibility. My mistake, genuinely. At the moment, things are still on the rise, but my thinking is as long as I'm happy and not down about it, it doesn't really matter. Things may not always work out, but I'm quite comfortable with my current situation. I'm very close with my parents and siblings as well as their partners. In fact, my family is very close-knit, often going on holidays together, as well as my girlfriend attending with us over the last few years. Because I have such a supportive family, I'm very grounded. My outlook on life is that it will be alright and work out somehow. I've spoken to my parents throughout this, and they've always said they'll support the both of us no matter what happens, which I'm very lucky about. I told them that things were on the up, but still quite rocky. It's my brother's wedding next month, and I'm the best man. Throughout this, he's been very good to me, offering to help out financially if we need to sell the house or anything along those lines. When I wasn't sure what was happening, he said the place for my girlfriend was there, and it didn't matter if she came or didn't. I was very grateful for this, as I didn't want to cause any annoyance in what I know is a stressful period for them. So come last night, my girlfriend got a text from my brother's fiance, basically saying she was uninvited from the wedding due to the current situation between myself and my girlfriend. I was very taken aback by this, since as far as I was concerned, the place was available and I had not not heard any different. The only thing I can think of that would explain this sudden decision is when the last time my brother and I spoke about my situation, he offered to help out if we needed to sell the house. I was quite worried to say that things were on the up and up again in case it fell apart again. I wanted to see where things were going before telling the world just in case. My extended family is also very close. My girlfriend has met them at all of our parties and then some. And so I know come the big day, I will be bombarded with questions from my family basically asking why my girlfriend's not with me today. I know it's their special day. And so it's up to no one but them to decide who to invite. I'm just feeling a little bit conflicted and so confused as I don't know what I want or how things will work out. This entire situation is just really messy and I genuinely don't know what to do. It is incredibly insulting for this brother to suddenly allow his fiance to uninvite this original poster's girlfriend all because they're having issues. Like, how is that anybody's business? That's so disgusting. The original poster also goes on to say that he has not texted back his brother after finding out that his girlfriend was uninvited to their wedding. And honestly, I'm really kind of annoyed by that. This is an urgent situation. You need to figure this out like immediately. Like, stop what you're doing and call them and get clarification. Because from my perspective, it seems like she got uninvited for little to no reason. It sounds like the original poster kind of implied like, hey, things have been rough, but it's getting better. And they must have taken it as some kind of like toxic relationship, and they're probably like uninviting her so there's no drama at their wedding, but there's no drama to be accounted for. So it's like, what? It seems like this couple that are getting married got ahead of themselves without knowing all the facts. If I was the original poster, I'd be very upset over this. This is my girlfriend you're uninviting, and I'm the best man. Like, what are you doing? Personally, I would first get a lot of details about why my girlfriend's not allowed to be at this wedding, and then depending on that conversation would determine if I'm still going to be the best man. You can't expect the original poster to just drop his girlfriend of 4 years out of his life for this special day and expect it to be normal. Like, that's super inappropriate. He bought a house with this lady. It's not like he's not going to see her again, and he can't just cut things off like that. That's ridiculous. So yeah, if I was the original poster, I would have texted about this yesterday. There's no way I would have let this simmer and just kind of go where it is now, because I need details and I need it fast. Because as far as I'm concerned, they're trying to cut my girlfriend out of this special occasion, when previously we've all shared our moments together, from family outings to all sorts of things. So I would get details quick and I would get them today. My entitled mom is demanding to live with me and my boyfriend in our soon-to-be house, and I honestly don't know what to do. My mom and dad wants us, meaning me and my boyfriend, to buy their house because they are having a divorce. We were thrilled because we have been searching for a house for a few years now. Sadly, they are ending their relationship on bad terms. Now, my mom keeps pressuring me to let her live with us. My dad is just cool and tells us to think wisely. First, some backstory. Me and my mom are from the Philippines and are now currently living in the Netherlands with my stepdad, who I call my dad. My mom has given me PTSD, and I am also bipolar. She has physically and emotionally hurt me for years. Her reasoning for this is so that she can discipline me, which is honestly just cruel and unusual punishment. The last few years, she has been depressed and does literally nothing other than watch videos online on her couch. My dad has to do everything: cook food, walk the dogs, pretty much every house chore you can think of, all because my mom wouldn't lift a finger for him or anyone else in the house, including the dogs. After 3 years, my dad is tired and completely done with this behavior. He tried to talk to her about this, but she would just ignore him. He even asked me and my boyfriend for any kind of advice, and I told him that my mom wants to go back to the Philippines because she is happier there. My dad is a very nice person, and he definitely deserves more than her. My dad is a truck driver who works 65 hours a week. He is tired and not happy. My mom is pressuring me that after we buy their house, that she must live with us for free, and that we should kick my dad out because he isn't family. My boyfriend was not amused by this, as he knows that she would treat us like slaves. What should I do? It sounds like your mom is really not a good person. She clearly was very mean to you emotionally and physically as a child, and it sounds like she's incredibly lazy and doesn't do anything to pull her weight. Like, for 3 years, this guy was absolutely miserable dealing with her, and it sounds like from the original poster that this is how she acted all the way through her childhood as well. She was very dismissive and she just did not care about anybody but herself. And that's just really not fair, especially when you're a mom to kids who need you to be there for them. Not to mention the husband who is dealing with all of this by himself. So no way. If I was the original poster in this situation, there is no way on earth I would allow my mother to move in with me and my boyfriend, especially if I know exactly how she's gonna act. And honestly, you know it's bad when your father goes to you for advice on your mother. At the bare minimum, you would hope at least that a husband and wife would be working together to figure out their problems. But from the sounds of it, the mom in this situation just doesn't care and doesn't want to be involved. So yeah, I wouldn't let her in your house for a second, because you can bet all of the laziness that she's exhibited in her previous marriage is only going to be inflicted upon you if you let her live with you. And that is a fact. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the link in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for receiving an award that was someone else's who just so happens to have the same name as me? Me and my friend, who I'll call Sophia, that's not her real name, have always had the same name. We re-met each other in high school and I introduced her to my friends. She then proceeded to steal my friends and talk garbage about me behind my back to them throughout the year. When I first reconnected with her, she was very fun to be around, but as time passed, I began to notice that whenever I was around her, she would just constantly be complaining about something. She then started to treat me like garbage. She would begin shushing me when I start to talk in a group conversation. She would intentionally leave me out of activities that she invited me to, and then she would more openly talk garbage about me. We were both really into theater, and over the summer, me, Sophia, and Brinley, one of the friends I introduced her to, which is also not her real name, we all went together to the same theater camp at the same time. It was honestly very fun, despite Sophia complaining the entire time. And we all thought we did a good job on our performance at the end of the week. Me and Sophia were the two main characters in the play, and at the ending scene, she had the last line. The line was a memorabilia of sorts to the beginning of the show. At the awards ceremony the next day, I got awards for improv as well as an all-star cast. But mistakenly, I also got one of Sophia's awards as well, all because we both have the same name. The award was for the closing line delivery. I didn't realize it at first because I just heard my full name and was excited to have gotten an award at all. I only found out afterwards when I rejoined the group. When I arrived back to them, I commented, genuinely confused, "That's weird, I didn't have the closing line." After I said that, everyone proceeded to talk to me and say that it wasn't my award and that I shouldn't have gone up there. Even though some of them were trying to comfort me, I ended up getting a little emotional and tears started streaming down my face. I was so embarrassed to have gone up there and taken pictures with the adjudicators when it wasn't even my award. Everyone in the auditorium was staring at me getting yelled at, and I was humiliated. I then wrongfully lashed out and told them all to shut up because they were making a scene. I understood that was wrong of me, and I admitted that later on. During the confrontation, I offered the certificate to Sophia because it was rightfully hers, and they made that pretty obvious. But it was refused. Whether by her or someone else, I still don't know. After the ceremony, we all got on the bus and went back home. Hours later, Sophia texted me asking for a picture of the certificate. I sent her a picture and she texted back, "Are you really going to keep it?" I said that I wasn't sure, and she then brought up that it wasn't mine to frame and idolize. When I said that I knew that and that I didn't want to keep it, she kept bringing up useless points, just trying to argue. I brought up that it wasn't my fault they mixed it up, and that I didn't know what else she wanted from me. But she demanded that I apologize even though none of it was my fault. Her exact wording. It didn't make any sense, but I did apologize after a little. She then continued with the argument even after and brought up stupid points that had already been talked about. She was going in circles at this point. She was mad she didn't get recognized. She was also mad that everyone was comforting me instead of her. And she was mad that I hadn't apologized immediately afterwards. She was also especially mad that I went up for the other awards, even though they were rightfully mine. It was honestly extremely tiring to go back and forth for things she was blaming me for. I eventually asked for an apology from her for wrongfully blaming me, as well as never letting me get a word in a normal setting. She said that she refused to give me one because she knew that she handled everything perfectly, even the conversation we were having just now. She never gave me an apology yet, continuing to blame me, though she will say she wasn't, even the day after. She just wouldn't stop with the arguments and repeated points that I'd already apologized for. I had emailed the theater organization in order for them to send her another copy of the certificate, but with her name on it instead, and left it at that. I did this as I did not know what else I could possibly do to try and satiate her. I stopped responding to her texts and I haven't talked to her since. So what should I do? Am I the jerk for this situation? It sounds like this really is not your fault. It sounds like it's the theater organization's fault for getting your names completely mixed up. Like they said your name, which happens to just be this other lady's name, and that you went up there by accident. It wasn't on purpose. The way your doppelganger is acting is completely uncalled for. So personally, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think things could have been handled much better in my opinion, but I think overall, you're not really to blame here. If anything, your friend should be pissed off at the theater organization. They completely took away from her moment and they completely ruined your experience at camp. So if she continues to complain to you, be like, hey, call the theater organization. They've got a new certificate coming for you with your name on it. Because honestly, aside from that, there's not much you really can do. I found out that my wife is cheating on me, and worst of all, she refuses to admit it. For some backstory, my wife and I have been together for nearly 9 years. We met in college, dated for 3 years, and are approaching our 6th wedding anniversary. We have always had a great relationship. We've had our share of normal struggles that any relationship might have as you begin to build a life with someone, but nothing major. Around May of 2021, we bought our first house, which we have been saving up for years. It needed quite a bit of remodeling, and we, mainly me, spent months getting the house remodeled before moving in a few months later. During this time, my wife started hanging out more and more with a work friend. At first, I thought nothing of this and was genuinely happy she had made a new friend. I should note that I never did, and to this day have not met this friend of hers. Around August 2021, I went on my first of many work trips that I would make over the next several months. While away on these trips, her friend would come over some nights, and a few times would stay until 2 or 3 in the morning, even on a work night. This was a little weird for me, and along with the constant texting and some comments made about this friend, I started getting a little suspicious. I also just had a gut feeling that I was being lied to. At one point, I actually confronted her about this. I told her how I felt and asked if there might be more going on between this friend. She said no and was annoyed that I would even think that. She even said, especially with a girl, and then questioned me like I was stupid to assume she might have an intimate relationship with this girl. I tried believing her, and I just moved on. I made attempts to have my wife invite her friend to gatherings at our house, as well as when we go out with a group of friends, but she was conveniently not available. She only ever seemed to be available when I was out of town or busy doing something else. Fast forward a few months, and I still can't shake this feeling that I'm being lied to. After a little digging and some spying, of which I'm not proud of, but sometimes you just have to look out for yourself, guess what? I find out that this girl does not work with my wife and that they had met on a dating app in June of 2021, presumably during the time that I was working a full-time job and fixing our new house on the weekends. I even overheard a FaceTime call in which they talked about intimate things they had done. I caught my wife sneaking around and going to her mom's house with this girl in the middle of the day when no one was home. I've confronted her a few times about it, but she continues to deny and tell me that I am wrong. It usually ends in an argument, and I almost ended our relationship during the last one. Since then, she agreed to stop seeing her supposed friend, and we're just trying to move forward. But things just seem off now. I have so many questions still, and have not received a real apology. I've never experienced depression and anxiety until now. Some days are great, and things feel back to normal, but others are a struggle. I'm afraid to bring it up again because I don't want to fight. I'm questioning everything now, and just want things to go back to normal. We've talked about couples therapy, but it's not in our budget at the moment. I'm worried I won't be able to ever get over this. What should I do? This is a horrible situation to be in because guess what? You're probably leaning towards divorce. This lady cheated on you while you're building your mutual home together. I mean, how crazy is that? She completely lied to you behind your back and went behind your back to get with this other woman. It's obvious that you love her, and it's obvious you want to try and make this work. But at what point do you need to take a stand and say enough is enough? Now, I'm not saying you should divorce this person by any means, but I think you really need to consider what kind of future you think you're going to have with her if she's actively going behind your back to get with somebody else. That speaks volumes to anything she's trying to do currently. So in my opinion, I think you really need to take a long, hard look at this situation, because I personally would not want to stay with someone who has very clearly betrayed my trust, and I would do what I need to do to make sure that I'm happy and that my future is secure, even if that means letting go of somebody who has clearly shown that they don't want me in their life. Today I messed up by giving a distressed stranger a ride. I'll preface this by saying I know I put myself in this situation with my stupidity. My desperation to be a helping hand to anyone and everyone has bit me in the butt butt so many times and could have easily messed me up this time. So if you call me an idiot after this, trust me, I agree. This happened about 3 hours ago. I was out at a gas station about 3 minutes from my house getting snacks and drinks for my family when I saw a beautiful, well-dressed woman in tears talking to the cashier. She was begging to use a phone, saying she didn't know where she was. When I got to the front, she saw me and asked if I had a phone she could borrow. She looked so scared and lost, so I said sure. I let her make a call as I finished paying and was about to leave, and she followed me out. She told me how she was from the south side of town and came up north with some friends. The friends and her had a fight in the car and she got out and walked. They left her there and drove away with her phone. She said she needed to find a bus stop but had no idea which buses to take and couldn't look up bus routes without a phone. I offered to look the route up and write it down, but she was like, "Hey, can I pay you to take me to the closest bus station?" I looked up the bus station location and she was like, "That's right by where I live. If I pay you extra, could you take me home?" I hesitated, but as I said, this woman was well dressed. She was well made up, she had a nice purse and some nice shoes. She was gorgeous and about my age. So I'm thinking to myself, what's the harm? I've been stranded before and it honestly sucks. I might as well get her home safely. Besides, it's only a 20 to 25 minute drive max. So I looked at her and I agreed. We set out and she gives me the address to go to. The whole time we're riding, we're talking, laughing, and telling stories. At one point, she asks if she can put on the next song, so I agree. She takes my phone and starts playing DJ. She sets the phone on her lap instead of putting it back in the cup holder, and because of that, I couldn't see the directions. I had to keep asking where the exits were and how much further till the next turn. Eventually, she navigates me off the highway and says we're close. I told her my phone was gonna die soon if we kept the music and maps on, and that I have no charger in the car. She's like, "Oh, it's fine. You can take one of my chargers at the house." But she kept my phone in her lap and kept the music on. Then all chit-chat and small talk dies off, and she's answering things in one-word responses. I'm thinking that she's just looking around for our turn into her neighborhood, but the problem came when I saw the street name I typed in coming up. I said, "Oh, here's your street," and she says, "Yeah, go straight." So we passed the street we were supposed to go to, and I realized my phone had just died and was sitting in her lap still. I start to get very nervous. I realize we are going in wide circles, constant right turns that are leading further and further from the highway. Honestly, at this point, I'm getting lost. She breaks the silence and says, "We're like 2 minutes away. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. How blessed I am that you came to my rescue. We're gonna hang out and have a good time before you head back." I said that I actually wouldn't have that kind of time. She didn't respond. Nothing about the way she said that felt right. She made this little giggle and stared out the window, and after that, there was more silence that really creeped me out. A little further down the road, I see her crack open a beer from a bag that was sitting on the floor. I said to her, "Seriously?" She said, it's fine, I'll just chug it, no problem." I fumed silently, praying for her turn to come up like now. I see a gas station and I notice I'm almost on empty, so I pull in and say, "Hey, I wasn't planning on being out this long, and if I don't head back right now, I'll miss my kiddos' bedtime. I really like to be there for reading before bed." She's like, "No problems. I'm just a bit further down after you get your gas." I tell her, "You said it was 2 minutes away about a minute ago, so I figured this is as close as I'm gonna go." That's when the mood switched instantly. Suddenly she says, "I can't pay you here when my cash is at the house though. Look at the intersection. There's no sidewalk. I'm gonna get hit by a car. It's literally on your way back to the highway. You can drop me off at the neighborhood entrance. It's fine. Come on." I tried to stand firm by saying, "No, my family is waiting on me and I've been gone for 40 minutes. And you said it would only take 20 to 25 minutes max. I have to go." Suddenly it struck me. We weren't anywhere near the bus station we originally discussed. Not even close. So she started to get upset and used a tone in her voice that said there would be problems if I didn't take her just a little bit further. And good Lord, I did not want any beef. So I turned the car on, smiled and said, "Oh, okay, hon, just a little further." "Oh shoot, wait, you still need a lighter?" She had been begging for one the entire drive, by the way. I said, "Let me give you a couple of bucks to go grab one for us since we're stopped anyways. I'll pump some gas while you do it." Her tone immediately went back to bright and chipper as she said, "Oh my God, really? Thanks. I'm gonna make this so worth your while. Be back in a sec." She sets down my phone, takes the money, and walks across the parking lot to the store. The second the door closed behind her, I locked the car, threw it in drive, and took off. I drove towards where I thought the highway was and had to stop at another gas station to grab a charger. I powered it up and looked at the map. I took stock of where I was, as well as where the bus station was, and where the address we were supposed to head to actually was, and realized without a doubt that she was completely lying. Probably about everything. I can't be sure if she was aiming to do something nefarious or if she was just lying so I'd take her further than I originally agreed to. But I learned my lesson that day. Don't trust anyone, especially when giving them rides. I am quite legitimately baffled by this story. I cannot believe for a second that someone could be this dumb to allow some stranger to get a ride with them. I don't care who they are. That is so dangerous. I thought hitchhiking and getting rides from people was a thing of the past. I know there's things like Uber as well as other ride-sharing applications, but this situation is completely different. At least with Uber as well as some other ride-sharing applications, there's some kind of safety protocol to try and keep you safe. And there's an expectation that, hey, I'm going to be picking up strangers. But this lady did not sign up for that. She did not willingly become an Uber driver or any other kind of ride-sharing driver. She let some random chick into her car. And guess what? This lady led her on a wild goose chase. She led her all over town. It's horrifying. I can only imagine the terror she felt. Thank goodness she was able to find another gas station and get this lady out of her car. But this also begs the other question, what was she looking at on your phone? Like in my mind, I would be checking my bank account, my Venmo, my Cash App, any other application that might have been easily accessible that this lady possibly could have gotten into. This person has no idea what was accessed. She very easily could have transferred money to her own bank account without you knowing. Like, this could have gone so much worse than it actually did. Honestly, this is a powerful lesson in being careful and thinking of yourself first. So many people, in my opinion, get in so much danger and life-threatening situations, all because they are too nice. There is nothing wrong with saying no. There's nothing wrong with self-preservation and thinking of you and your family first. You absolutely have to think of yourself first and foremost when you're in public or in any kind of situation. You want to know why? Because nobody else will. This is a classic case of a wolf in sheep's clothing. This lady, to the original poster, seemed completely normal, completely fine. In fact, the beginning of the trip seemed actually kind of appropriate. They were laughing and talking as if they were friends. But when it came down to it, this original poster did not know this lady for a second, and this honestly could have ended up so much worse. This was a horror story waiting to happen, and this original poster genuinely got off easy. So remember, the next time you're in public, please be careful and don't give rides to strangers, because you never know what kind of crazy person's gonna sit in your car. My entitled ex-girlfriend demands the engagement ring I was going to use to propose to her before she broke up with me. Eventually, the cops were involved and she was arrested. Here's what happened. A while back, I was dating this girl for roughly 2 years. I thought things were going great, but apparently, she was just dating me because she liked to tell people she was in a relationship. The way she would describe me was being too immature and honestly not worth the rest of her life. Those were her exact words that a friend of mine said to me before we broke up. But before I get ahead of myself, I went out and bought a ring, and I had this entire thing planned out to propose to her. However, she was suddenly not available for several weeks in a row. Well, my fears rang true as she suddenly showed up at my place one day and acted like everything was normal. And as we talked, she started grabbing for everything that was hers. About halfway through, I just kind of looked at her and said, don't forget your hair dryer. It would be awkward to have you come back over after you dump me. This sparked a long and awkward conversation where she was just fake crying. I had realized right then and there that I was an idiot. The way she acted, the way she spoke, and the way she treated me just screamed that she did not care about me. I was absolutely, honestly devastated, but seeing her made me angry. I had realized she was lying to me this entire time. About a month later, a friend of hers called me up and asked if she could come over to talk. I asked why, and she said that my ex pissed her off and she wanted to tell me some things. My mind immediately goes to the worst case scenario, like she needs to tell me that I need to go see a doctor or something like that. Well, her friend came over and we chatted for a while. You see, her friend was beyond pissed off, and she was close to ending the relationship with her entirely. So in her mind, her way of getting back at her friend, who just happens to be my ex, is for her to spend some quality time with her ex-boyfriend, that being me, if you know what I mean. Me being in the mental state that I was in, I said yes. But in reality, what I really said was, sure. Yeah, we can do that if you really want to. So she ends up staying over for a few days as we get to talking about my ex-girlfriend. I tell her about the ring and she had the best idea to get back at my ex. So she thought it would be good if we both laid down on the bed and I post a picture of ourselves with the ring in between us. I thought that was a terrible idea, but I wanted my ex to feel like garbage, so I went ahead and did it. Not even 2 hours later, my ex was at the door. We posted this picture at about 11 o'clock in the morning, and she was at my place at 12:40 or something like that. Right off the bat, she tried to act like breaking up with me was a mistake. She said that I was the best boyfriend she ever had, and she was getting scared with how serious things were getting. She said she made a terrible mistake in breaking up with me. Well, her friend immediately goes into a rant about my ex, saying that she was manipulative and that neither of us would believe this sob story she was giving. I gotta say, I'm very glad that my friend was there because I might have been stupid enough to believe my ex. I reminded her of how she treated me when she broke up and that she should go home, saying that she was just wasting her time. Well, now she brought up the ring. She said to me that she deserved that ring under the law and said that rings are gifts and that I cannot take it back. In unison, me and her friend said that I never gave it to her in the first place. We both looked at each other and laughed a bit, as the absurdity of the situation was getting outrageous. She then went on to say that she was owed that ring and that she was not leaving without it. At about this time, a police officer came up the stairs wanting to know what the trouble was. I guess we made enough noise that the neighbors called the police. The female officer asked what the situation was. Everyone tried to talk all at once, but the officer shut us down. She pointed to my ex and asked her what the problem was. She said she was trying to pick up her stuff after we broke up. The officer then asked me if that was true. I explained the situation of how my ex broke up with me before I had the chance to propose to her and that she was never given the ring. Throughout the conversation, 2 more officers showed up, one of them being the supervisor. The whole story was explained like 4 times. At one point, my ex even said that the money from the ring will help her pay off her car. I responded after hearing this outrageous statement that the ring isn't expensive and it was bought used off of a website. And I reminded her that I am an IT tech, so I couldn't afford some crazy expensive ring. The anger and rage that came over her face was immediately apparent to everyone. She stepped forward and punched me in the chest and kicked at me before being tackled to the ground by the female officer. The supervisor on scene told us to go inside while they get her under control. We did, and about 10 minutes later, they came back. They wanted my statement, and I told them I didn't want to press charges against her, but they said, yeah, it doesn't work like that. We saw it, so it's being processed. She ended up getting a misdemeanor offense for it, and she never did get that ring. What an absolute dumpster fire all of these people are. This guy got dumped by his girlfriend who's clearly crazy. This lady's friend then goes over to this boyfriend to get back at her friend by spending quality time with her ex-boyfriend. This is like off of like some daytime TV show. This is ridiculous. I mean, I hate to use this terminology, but if any relationship could be seen as a hot mess, this whole situation is just a steaming pile of hot mess. I think this guy got off easy by getting away from his ex-girlfriend. She is clearly unhinged and was obviously only using him just to say that she had a relationship going. Like, she clearly didn't like him at all. And maybe it's mean, but for me personally, I kind of love it when people pop off in front of the police and they show their true colors. It only takes a little bit to really frustrate them enough for them to really start acting the way they normally act when people aren't around. And when they do and they start lashing out like that, it's wonderful to see because you know for a fact they're about to get punished for the behavior that you've dealt with behind closed doors for years. So good for this guy for getting away from his crazy ex-girlfriend, and hopefully he can put that ring to better use on someone that he knows for a fact will love and care for him for the rest of his life. An entitled group of strangers add me to a group message and try to guilt trip me into planning somebody else's wedding for free, and they simply would not take no for an answer. It's 5 a.m., and roughly an hour ago, I got added to a group chat with multiple people whom I've never met. I still honestly have no idea who some of them are. The first message was welcoming a bridal party. I have a few friends getting married soon, but I'm not part of any of their parties. I have been asked in the past, but I've said no. I personally have too much going on, and my partner is high risk for COVID, and I don't want to risk that. I'm also trying very hard to be very careful about who I spend my time around. Everyone knows this, and I haven't gone out, and 99% of my friends events are online only. This is not something new or groundbreaking for my life right now either. As soon as I got invited, I read the intro and I knew that it was going to be another crap storm. I keep getting volunteered for anything wedding related ever since I planned my best friend's wedding. Apparently, I did a great job, but because of this, people I don't know keep messaging me, expecting me to plan their weddings. Most of them expect this for free, and as you can imagine, of course I have not done any of them. I am not a wedding planner. I'm studying to be a mortician. I think those two things are very far away from each other in terms of career options. I don't respond to the group chat, and I tried to get some sleep. Eventually, my phone rings, and it's the person who added me on the other line, who, by the way, I have never been close with, but they for some reason felt the need to try and call me. I deny the call and message her that I am not interested in anything wedding related, and at that point, I also leave the group chat. She tries calling again, numerous times, so as a result, I block her. Again, I have never been close with her, and that's when my friend, this lady's sister, messages me in all caps that I cannot ignore a pregnant lady. She went on and on about how hard it is to plan a wedding, as well as take care of her kids. Both of these people have children, and I honestly don't know how many each of them have. But this friend I have known for less than 2 months, and whom I've met online, as well as never met in person, decided she wanted to get involved and try and guilt trip me into this situation. I tell her I don't care that they have children, and I rip into her. She's constantly complaining about not having friends, and I made sure she knew that this entitled behavior is probably why. So as a result, I block her too. Remember, kids, just because you're crazy and have kids does not mean I will plan your wedding for free. Wedding planning is no joke. That is one of those jobs where it is high risk, high reward. Because if it really goes wrong, you're in deep trouble. But on the opposite end, if it goes off really well, you're going to be seen as some amazing, incredible person. And it's going to be the most special night in these people's lives, probably forever. So it's really funny to me that this lady is somehow sucked into the wedding planning business without ever trying to be in the business in the first place, all because she did a good job at her best friend's wedding. But wow, is it absolutely inappropriate for these people to try and guilt trip this lady into planning this wedding simply because the bride is somehow pregnant, as well as pretty much everybody else in this group, it sounds like. Like, I'm really sorry that you have kids and that having kids is hard, but that does not mean that you're going to be planning somebody's wedding for free. There's also no way that anybody should allow that to happen for free. Like, if you're going to be planning somebody's wedding, you better be getting paid, because that's a lot of work. That's a lot of logistics, and that's a lot of hoops to jump through. So good for this lady for sticking to her values and blocking this lady after she was being super toxic, because nobody needs that, and nobody needs that kind of entitlement in their life. I feel like my husband prioritizes his gaming friends over me, and I'm not sure what to do about it. My husband and I have been together for a little over a year, and we've been married for about 2.5 months. While we were dating, he would spend lots of time with me and did everything he could to make me feel special. I've always known he has online friends he plays video games with, and understands that he occasionally needs guy time to decompress. I have absolutely no problem with that. The thing that bothers me is that ever since we've been living together, since late September of 2021, his friends have seemed to take first place. He spends about 70 to 90% of his time outside of work, either texting or playing a game with them. When he does play, he will play with them for 3 to 4 hours at least. I've expressed my concerns about it several times, explaining that we don't really spend time together anymore unless we're sleeping or trying for kids. I've explained that for months now, I have felt like I'm in second place for him. He always says something along the lines of, well, that's not true, you're my wife and I love you, and then either guilts me by saying I never let him play with them, or that he's not allowed to have friends because of me. Both things are absolutely not true. I'm just tired of not getting the quality time I used to get with him. What do I do to get my husband to want to date me again? How do I convince him to see that his spouse should come first? What should I do? So this is a really tricky situation because I had to check this first and foremost. Both of the people in this story are 19 years old. So the husband and wife in this situation both got married very young, which honestly explains the way this husband's acting. Why on earth would you get married that young and then expect your husband to start acting mature and spending all his time with you? In my opinion, you're way too young to be married, and it sounds like your husband's responsibilities are not in the right place. I'm also willing to guess that these people have not had a long-term relationship relationship before getting married, and that this just kind of happened and they just ran with it. In my opinion, this is a very bad idea. You're sprinting towards parenthood when both of you are still teenagers. Like, let's slow down a little bit and see where this goes first. I think maybe getting to know your husband a little bit more before you get married probably would have been very good. Obviously, you knew about his online friends and you knew that he was going to spend a lot of time gaming, but what you probably didn't predict is that while you're living together, he's probably going to be spending a lot of that time gaming with his friends too. So yeah, I think you got a long road ahead of you, to be completely honest, and I think you should have another honest conversation with your husband and say, hey, I want equal time. Hopefully this all goes well, and hopefully you're able to make this marriage work, because in my opinion, 19 years old is way too early to get married. My best friend and I haven't spoken in a year, and I'm planning my wedding, and I really need some advice on how I should reach out. We've been best friends for over half my lifetime. We were roommates for a year and a half in my early 20s without issues, especially beyond small bickering with chores and stuff along those lines. We had remained close even after we didn't live together. We are our most authentic and genuine selves together and can say anything without fear of judgment, and we knew each other's secrets, dreams, fears, everything. We are silly together, but we can be serious. We know how to cheer each other up and how to make each other laugh. We have been there for each other at our lowest as well as our highest points, and our bond is palpable. I love him and I know he loved me. We have had periods of low as well as no contact before, but those were never one-sided, and we always came back together as if nothing had happened. These periods sometimes coincided with new boyfriends on his part, something I thought he'd learn from. Otherwise, it was just when life would take us in two different directions, like going to college or getting a new job. But we would always be there for each other and stop whatever we're doing to help the other person, no matter how long it had been. During mid-2020, we reconnected after one of those low contact periods. After he broke it off with his boyfriend at the time and moved home, we had a heart-to-heart, and we vowed to never go silent again, and we returned everything back to normal. But then when he began dating again, he'd go for a few weeks without responding. He missed my engagement and seemed genuinely remorseful and vowed to be better at staying in touch. This was in January of 2021. That didn't even last all of January. We reconnected again in May, where he tearfully apologized for ignoring me all those months, and I learned he got a new boyfriend. Then in June, he moved to a neighboring state with his new said boyfriend, which was about 6 hours away. So in June of 2021, he officially moved. He wasn't in the best headspace due to issues with his boss as well as his colleagues, and he was hoping that this transfer would give him a fresh start. I tried checking in often and maintaining contact, but only a week after the move, he stopped responding to text messages as well as not answering my phone calls. I've tried countless times to get in touch. Calling and texting don't work, and he doesn't use social media. My messages that I would leave would vary between normal and sometimes silly, with the messages themselves being me either just checking in, having some semblance of concern, but in no way were they ever there to try and make him angry. I'm planning my wedding for late September now. He's always said he'd be in the party, as we've previously daydreamed together of how certain life milestones would happen, with each of us as involved in the others as possible. But now, I don't even have his address to send an invitation. Obviously, he won't have a role in the wedding per se, but I hope that he would at least want to attend. I reached out to his mom last week, whom I've always been very close with as well. I made it clear that there is no pressure to respond, and I do not want her to feel like I was putting her in the middle of anything. I just wanted her to know that I was concerned because I haven't heard from him, and I wanted to be able to say I tried everything. She replied and said that he was doing well, but often has a hard time getting in touch. She said she has called his boyfriend sometimes to get him to respond, and that she reached out to ask if he could get in touch with me. I thanked her and left it at that. He did try calling me that night. I was at a family meeting and I didn't see the missed call until 2 hours later. He didn't answer when I tried calling back, so I just texted him apologizing for missing his call and hoping he would link up soon. I also sent him our wedding website so he could RSVP without the physical invitation in his hands. But guess what? I got no response and no RSVP, so I called him again yesterday. This was a week after the first missed call, and still there was no answer. I have been drafting a final attempt text message for a while to summarize it, and after putting my feelings out there and just explaining that I miss him and that I'm worried about him, I offered to drive out to him to meet up for lunch or something. Maybe I've done or not done something to upset him, but if he'd help me understand, I feel we could work through it. We can hash this out in person if he wants, so we can move forward or at least move on. I ended it by saying if I don't hear back, back, then I know he just wants to move on, which I would respect. I also said that I'll always hope the best for him and that he's an amazing person who deserves the best in life. I haven't sent this message yet, but I'm honestly just looking for some advice. I imagine most of you will tell me it's a lost cause, that people grow apart, and it's just a fact of life. I can understand that and I can respect that, but I really do feel an urge to make this final attempt. After everything he and I have been through, I just really want to feel like I've truly tried everything. And also, I want to make it known that there are consequences for his continued silence. I just want to let him know that if he doesn't respond and if he doesn't come to the wedding, that I don't think there's much of a friendship worth salvaging. I guess I'm just asking what anyone else thinks. Is there anything else I should be doing? Should I even send this final attempt text message? Is there anything else I could try that maybe I'm not looking at? What should I do? I think if your friend's not responding back, that's a pretty clear message that they either want to move along or they don't care about your situation. I think the fact that they called you back is only because the mom got involved and probably grilled their son for not getting in contact with their former best friend. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure what the situation might be, but it sounds like your friend is in a different place. And that's okay. Friends drift apart. Like, that cliche really is true. There are some friends I used to be ride or die with that now I barely talk to. And in some situations, that's okay. You clearly have your life ahead of you. You're getting ready to be married, and there's nothing wrong with you taking those steps forward and saying, hey, this is the direction I'm going. If you want to be a part of it, then come along for the journey. So I don't think the text message you plan on sending is wrong in any way. I think you have it lined up perfectly, and I think you've given some wonderful caveats as well as cop-outs if he really needs it. So in my opinion, go ahead and send the text message. But for the sake of your friendships, I really hope things work out, because it sounds like you two had a great friendship together, and I would hate to see that go to waste. My ex-boyfriend texted me nearly 2 years after breaking up with me, and I'm not sure what to make out of it. I'm looking for an opinion on this strange thing that happened yesterday. I am a 20-year-old female, and I woke up to a message from my ex-boyfriend yesterday. He texted me at 3 in the morning, telling me that his grandma was sick and that it brought up old memories for him. He essentially apologized, saying all the things I would have loved to hear when he first broke up a year and a half ago. I am now in a happy, healthy relationship, and I am just completely stumped as to why he felt it necessary to text me in the first place. It has been almost 2 years after all. I did respond and was very short with him, and to be honest, I was kind of a jerk. I decided afterwards to just block him because it's not worth my time or my stress. It was a horrible relationship. We were together for 3 years, in which he treated me like I was an option most of the time, and he even ended up confessing feelings for his close friend, which ultimately destroyed our relationship. He destroyed me and my sense of self-worth. I suspect he may have narcissistic tendencies. So why would he do this? Is there some specific reason? Has anyone else ever experienced anything like this before? So to me, this screams I'm looking for attention, if anything. This guy screwed up the one relationship that he ever had that actually was worth something, and he messed it up on his terms. He ruined it completely. And you know what? He probably wants to get back with you because he knows he can make you the victim again. And I bet you this made him feel some sense of power in the relationship. Honestly, blocking him was the best thing you could have done, especially since this guy was not a good person to this original poster. I don't blame this OP for blocking them at all. In my opinion, you just don't need that kind of energy in your life, especially after finally securing a solid, healthy relationship with someone who loves you and is going to treat you like a human being. The last thing you need to do is open the door for some narcissist who treated you like garbage for years to come walking back into your life and somehow get between you and your current relationship. Honestly, you did the right thing. You blocked him and you got rid of him, because if you remember correctly, that's exactly what he did to you. So best of luck to you, and I really hope this guy doesn't message you again. An entitled Karen goes nuts as she gets offended by my shirt that makes fun of Karens. She finds this shirt offensive, and eventually she gets violent, which causes the police to get involved. So I recently went on vacation. While on vacation, I stopped at a couple of those wacky tourist shops. You know, the ones filled with crazy shot glasses and t-shirts. While in one of them, the cashier was wearing a shirt that said, "Not today, Karen." I told her I thought the shirt was really funny, and then she tells me that they sell the shirt in the store, and of course, I rushed to buy one. Flash forward a couple of days, and I'm back home from vacation. I decided to go out for dinner instead of cooking, so I tossed on some clothes and headed to my favorite sushi place. I hadn't realized until I got there that I tossed on my new "Not Today, Karen" t-shirt. Honestly, I didn't think anything wrong would happen, cause come on, it's a t-shirt. But boy, was I wrong? I go in, eat my fill of yummy sushi, and leave. As I'm heading to my car, I hear someone dramatically gasp in shock and then say loudly, "How dare you?" I turn to see what's going on, only to be met with a Karen marching right up to me, dragging her 4-year-old looking daughter right along with her. She was the typical Karen from her haircut to her overly priced, ill-fitting clothes. This bleach blonde menace gets right up in my face and starts shouting at me.
"How dare you wear such an offensive shirt? That's a terrible term to say."
She then went on to say that the word Karen is somehow equivalent to using a racial slur. Her daughter started wailing because her mother was screaming and dragging her along in my direction. As soon as she noticed her daughter crying, she started screaming about how I scared her with my offensive shirt. She just kept on going on and on, getting louder with every word.
"You should be ashamed of yourself."
Then she jammed her finger at me and started shouting about how people like me should be arrested for a hate crime. I just rolled my eyes and turned to leave. I was so full of sushi, and honestly, I couldn't care less what she was saying. I barely took a step forward when I was shoved from behind and nearly fell over.
"Don't you walk away from me."
I readjusted myself, walked up in her face, and calmly said, "Touch me again and see what happens." She backed up and started shouting about how dare I threaten her and her daughter. I said she's the one who shoved me, and if she tried that again, she would regret it. She starts screaming about how I assaulted her and her daughter, saying,
"Someone call the police."
Apparently, this Karen didn't know that the sushi shop I was just in is a local favorite for the police. There was 12 officers in there eating, and all 12 of them witnessed the whole thing. I'm also a bit buddy-buddy with the police that frequent the sushi place because one of my close family friends is an officer, and he always talked about me like I was his kid. And whenever I go to this sushi place, whenever I'm there, I pay for their meals as a thank you for their service. 6 of the 12 in there know me by name and came out. As soon as Karen saw them, she ran up to them, again dragging her poor child with her, and said I had hurt her and had called her a terrible name. The one cop, I'll call her Bethany, which is not her real name, walks over to me and asks me what started it. Bethany and I go off to the side and I explain what happened. Her training officer was my family friend, and the two were as close of friends as he was with my family. I told her what happened and had to explain the whole Karen joke with her. She laughed, told me I could go and that she would handle this. I thanked her and turned to leave. As soon as this Karen noticed that I was leaving, she started screaming louder, "How dare you let her get away with this?" I left without any more fuss. I'm not sure what happened to the Karen, but I'm sure that the next time I see Bethany, she will be more than happy to let me know. It's crazy how entitled some people can actually act. Like it's just a shirt. It's not like it was anything bad. And no, the word Karen is not an offensive word. To compare the word Karen to a word that has actual negative connotation in today's society, and I think you all know which word I'm talking about, is really, really ridiculous because it's not even close. Thankfully, this Karen got exactly what was coming to her, and the police were able to step in and put her in her place. My friend has guys falling over her constantly, and I'm so jealous of it, I don't even know what to do. I've been friends with Kate since high school. That's not her real name. So overall, about 10 years. I know this all will make me sound like a bad friend, but I just don't know what to do. I have never had a serious relationship. It makes me frustrated and anxious that Kate, on the other hand, doesn't have to lift a finger to have a plethora of guys to choose from. Everything always seems to work out for her, whether that's school, jobs, making friends, but I can't relate to her about dating at all, and I feel really insecure when she talks about her love life. She had the absolute sweetest boyfriend in college, and she broke up with him because he wanted to get married and she didn't. A few months later, we went to another state for the 4th of July and met this group of older guys in their 40s, and one of them asked Kate to dinner. She went out on the date, and they ended up dating for 2.5 years, eventually leading to them getting engaged. He was really wealthy and treated her like a princess, constantly flying back and forth to see her, taking her on expensive holidays, and showering her with gifts and attention. I didn't like him, but she didn't listen. She was nuts about him. She finally broke up with him after finding out he lied about something really big, and she ended up selling all of the stuff he bought her and made like $10,000. After that, she started dating the son of a famous actor, but broke up with him because he was being too clingy. Then this guy in our friend group, who I was really really into turned me down and asked her out a few months later. She went out with him, not knowing about my crush on him, and said that he was really rude to her. She was single for a while, and I thought we were finally on the same wavelength. Then we took a girls' trip to Norway in the spring with 2 other friends. We hired a tour guide through a company to take us on a big hike. The guide was this gorgeous student at a local university, and of course, he took a liking to Kate. He was so freaking hot, and the entire time, Kate spent a lot of time with him. After the tour was over, he even took her on 2 really sweet dates and bought her a gift to take home with her when she left. On our last day in Norway, we went out to a club and met these German guys in the lineup. Me and the other 2 girls wanted to head home earlier than Kate, so she stayed out with them. She even exchanged numbers with one of them and kept in contact with them when she got home. And she literally just told us that she's going to Germany next month to hang out with him. He even sent her money for half of the plane ticket as well as a hotel. He actually seemed like a normal, nice guy, and now she's taking a subsidized trip to Germany. Our other friends are either married or single, and I don't feel the same jealousy over their relationships. It's like her life is charmed and I just keep getting ghosted. She could line up a different date 5 nights a week and they would all call her back, but I just can't seem to get anything together. I don't know how to be friends with her because I feel like I can't be happy for her. What should I do? It is honestly very unhealthy to compare yourself to other people, and I can completely understand where you're coming from where you're saying, hey, I'm living in my friend's shadow. So honestly, having some kind of distance between you and Kate might go a really long way. Like, obviously being around her is making you feel like garbage. And yeah, you're probably right. This Kate lady probably is very beautiful, and that's why all these men are immediately going towards her. But just because she's incredibly beautiful does not mean that you're not beautiful as well. Allowing this other woman's success in relationships cloud your vision of yourself is not healthy. You have so much worth and so much to offer in a relationship. I'm sure of it. So don't beat up on yourself so much. I think honestly, if you start focusing on yourself and not so much on this Kate lady or anybody else, you'll be so much happier and you'll probably be able to find yourself in a better relationship and in a better situation than you've ever been in. And then eventually you won't have to be jealous of this lady. And you might just find yourself in a relationship with somebody who's going to make all of this jealousy and frustration in your life simply go away. My family hates my girlfriend, and honestly, I'm not sure what to do about it. I'm a 21-year-old male and I live with my grandparents because my dad passed away in 2019 and my mom left us when I was 13 years old. She ran away with my dad's best friend. Ever since everything went down, my grandparents have been taking care of me. I have a girlfriend who's 19 years old, and my grandparents don't think she's good for me because of the few times they saw her. The first time she was sick, and she didn't come out of my room much, but she was sick and uncomfortable. Another time we were in my room just watching movies. Ever since we started dating, they didn't like her. She was always polite. She brought wine for them and a home-baked cake for my birthday. She's shy around new people, especially the ones that never liked her from the beginning. After that, my grandparents didn't want to see her anymore and she wasn't welcome at the home. They started calling her lazy, a gold digger, claiming that she's not going to be anything in life, and a lot of other bad things. They even started insulting her family. Every time I go to her, they say I'm making the biggest mistake ever. They also say that I have to ask if I want to go somewhere, even with friends. I always have to fight them just to see her, and they always just scream at me and it's always a problem. My brother also doesn't like her because he thinks she is using me. I love my girlfriend and I love her family. Her family has always welcomed me, and her mom said that she now has another son. My girlfriend wants me to move in with her and her family because she thinks it will be better for my mental health and that we will be happier. We had some ups and downs mainly because of my family, but I want a future with her. What should I do? This is honestly a terrible situation that your grandparents are so biased against your girlfriend, seemingly over nothing. From what you've described, it sounds like your girlfriend is a really nice woman, and I don't understand the perspective of your brother stating that she's just using you. There's nothing here that would insinuate that she's using you in any way. Plus, it looks like her family absolutely adores you. It seems like you have a good option to move out and go live with them if you really wanted to. And personally, if I was in your shoes, I would probably go do that. Your girlfriend's family really likes you, and it sounds like your grandparents are being really toxic. And there's nothing worse than being with someone that you love, only to then find resistance from people who you would expect would try and embrace her, or at the very least just try and get to know her. From the sounds of it, your grandparents have not taken the time to even get to know her in the slightest. They made a quick judgment call and they were just completely wrong. So yeah, if you have your life together as well as a job that can support yourself and transportation and all the other things that you might need, go ahead and move in with her family. I think they're right, and I think your girlfriend has it right too. You really will be happier and your mental health will be better too. So go for it. My fiance wants a prenup agreement before we get married. My fiance and I live together. I'm a 36-year-old female and he's a 45-year-old male. We're planning to get married. It's a second marriage for both of us. He has quite a bit of assets and I do not. And he wants a prenup, which in my opinion is fair enough. Right now, I do not have any income. I'm about to open a small business using my entire life savings on it, which isn't much either. He has a hefty income stream, being self-employed, and I help him with it, and a small portion of the income goes directly into a joint account for household expenses. It's been 9 months since he's hired his attorney to draft the prenup. In that 9 months, we've had about half a dozen discussions and arguments about it. Then he goes back and talks to his lawyer. Then a month or so later, I'll ask about it and we do it all again. I have never seen whatever draft they've put together. Today, I call him as he's out of town on business and ask where we are on the prenup. I say that since it's been so long and that I haven't even seen it, I think it's time I hire a lawyer to review what we've already agreed on. Honestly, I think I'm being too nice in the terms so far, but whatever. My lawyer will help me with that. I have made it clear that should either of us pass away, the other would receive half of the entire estate. He thinks it's unfair to his adult daughters from his previous marriage and says he doesn't need my half anyway if I pass away first. Anyways, he says that he wants us to agree on the terms first before I hire a lawyer because they're expensive. Well, it's been forever and we're still light years away from the finish line, and it especially seems this way with him driving the train on this. But then he follows it up with a "but it's up to you" kind of thing, in a way like he's trying to guilt trip me into changing my mind, as if I should just sign the prenup without having a lawyer present. I tell him that it's been 9 months, I've never seen it, and it's my right to hire an attorney. I even point out that my not hiring an attorney could be grounds for a judge throwing it out if we do get divorced, especially since I'd be getting a teeny tiny fraction of his total assets. Then he asks me who's paying for the lawyer and tells me it's not coming out of the joint account. So yeah, I felt like he was basically telling me I'm too poor to fight the terms of the prenup and to just shut up and sign it. He's the one that wants the stupid thing in the first place. Why should I have to beg him for money to make sure my rights are being upheld? This whole situation is really frustrating and I'm honestly not sure what to do. I think you definitely should get a lawyer. I can't really comment on what you should or shouldn't do because I don't really know the logistics of it, but yeah, you need to find a lawyer. And it seems like this guy's just being really sketchy about this. Like he's trying to push you to sign this prenup without allowing you some time to have counsel over it. Like to me, that would be a big red flag personally. If he really cared about you, he would want you to understand completely and entirely what's on it. And it seems like he's being so combative about it. Like that's just super sketchy to me personally. If this was a mutually good agreement between the both of you, then both parties would be actively involved in helping both of you understand this. Also, why on earth is this guy not footing the bill for the attorney on your end? Like, don't you want to get married and be together? I mean, sure, if you want to have a prenup, but this guy is treating it like it's not a partnership of some kind. You are still getting married after all. So I don't know. This whole situation seems super sketchy in my opinion, and if you really want to get married to this guy, I absolutely think you need to get a lawyer. Today, I messed up by going on a nighttime hike with my supposed friends, only to get left behind in the dark. For context, this happened back in March of this year, but I'm still feeling the effects. I'm an 18-year-old female, and a youth group that I'm a part of was doing a nighttime hike, and I decided to go with 2 of my friends who've been some of my best friends for about 7 years. I forgot my inhaler for this hike, which I didn't think would be a big deal since my asthma was mild, and I haven't had an attack since I was in kindergarten. Well, this hike was surprisingly steep, and for quite a while it was all incline, with no flat parts parts to rest at. I wasn't very active during much of quarantine, so I'm not as fit as I used to be. And because of my lack of fitness and how strenuous the hike was, I found that I was struggling to breathe, even struggling more than I ever have before. I asked my friends repeatedly if we could take a break because I was struggling to breathe. And I even once said that I forgot my inhaler, but instead they kept yelling at me, "Oh, you got this, keep going." And they refused to stop. And pretty soon I was eating their dust. We had been told before the hike started to stick with our buddies, since it was very dark out and there are coyotes around. But they left me alone, and I felt like I had to keep going without stopping because I didn't want to get left behind. I could tell that I was the last one in the group by far, but I kept pushing even though every step hurt and my breaths were getting shorter and shorter. Then suddenly I couldn't breathe. I was having an asthma attack for the first time in 13 years, give or take. While all alone on a very dark mountain with no inhaler, I started to panic, but I remembered that I had read online that you needed to sit down, sit up straight, and remain as calm as possible while taking big, slow breaths. This was all just natural remedies in case you didn't have your inhaler. So I sat up straight and tried to remain calm while taking slow, deliberate breaths. I have no idea how much time passed, but it felt like 10 minutes maybe, and eventually I was able to breathe again, though my airways still felt relatively tight. I began to walk again, slower this time, taking breaks and making sure I was taking deep, slow breaths. I had my flashlight on while I was walking, and a group of 4 adults had seen it and waited at a point ahead of me so I could catch up. When I got to them, they asked what was wrong, and I just started crying while trying to catch my breath. And I explained that I had an asthma attack, but I don't have my inhaler. I hadn't met any of them before, but they were very nice and said they would walk slow with me, telling me to take as many breaks as needed. They made polite conversation with me, but I felt incredibly embarrassed and angry the entire time. When we got to a point on the mountain with cell service, I got a text from one of my friends saying, are you good? I said I had an asthma attack. Then they asked if I was with someone and said that they felt so bad for leaving me behind. I didn't respond because I was pissed off. After a while, we caught up with the group at the end of the hike, and the man who was in charge of the activity was very worried about me and seemed a bit angry at my friends for leaving me behind and gave them strict instructions not to leave me behind on the way back down. When I first saw them, they laughed awkwardly and asked if I was okay, and I said yes, but nothing else to them. I wasn't having it. Instead of apologizing or acting worried at all, they just laughed at my predicament. What lovely friends. On the way back down, they made awkward conversation, but I wasn't really giving them much. And funnily enough, one of my friends started to walk way ahead a few times. And each time, my other friend would laugh and tell her that she's leaving someone behind, which honestly just felt so terrible. The next day, they left a half-hearted apology note as well as a plate of brownies at my door. But I didn't respond because I was too angry and didn't want to say something I might regret. I acted normal around them and the rest of my friend group at school, but ever since that happened, they just have not hung out with me at all. They haven't invited me to anything once since this happened. The entire friend group just iced me out. They were still nice and normal at school on the rare occasion that we were all around each other, and they like my Instagram posts, but they just don't text me or invite me to anything anymore. Now it's awkward with them, and it's like we aren't even friends anymore. We graduated a month ago and still nothing, so it's not like they are busy with school. I have other friends I hang out with who are great, and I found that I am much happier with them instead of my other group. They can actually address conflict instead of ghosting people as soon as any conflict arises. I am certain that none of them would leave their friend behind on a mountain in the middle of the night, but it still makes me sad losing a friend group of 7 years because I had an asthma attack. So the moral of this story is don't forget your inhaler on hiking trips. Honestly, I think the moral of this story is to find better friends. Any rational friend who actually cares about their friend's well-being would not have left you on that mountain. They were not your friends. They were probably acquaintances at best. This is not like leaving your friend behind at the mall or at the store or anywhere else or like at school. This is literally a mountain with nobody around to help you out. This poor original poster was by themselves having an asthma attack, and as someone who does have asthma, let me tell you, it is a nightmare to deal with. Especially if you don't have your inhaler with you. That can be a horrifying experience. But the technique that they did to try and get breaths inside of their body and to try and calm down is exactly what I would have done if I was in that situation. I honestly think it takes moments like this for you to really see who your actual friends are. And when the dust settled, guess what? None of them were there for her. They all went ahead, up the mountain, and left her behind. And if that's not a metaphor for how they actually feel about her, I don't know what is. So honestly, goodbye and good riddance to that former friend group. Because it sounds like like this original poster found a better friend group that won't leave her alone on a mountain by herself in the dark. My boyfriend's entitled mother disowns her son all because he wouldn't feed her gambling addiction, only to then turn around less than a week later and demand money from my boyfriend. Here's what happened. My partner's mom lives in a different city than we do and is pretty reliant on her kids. My partner has 3 sisters, and the other sisters don't want much to do with her. She does this to keep herself afloat financially. It's important to note that she has a serious gambling addiction. Because of this, she tends to blow through the money my partner and his sisters send her in a matter of days before immediately asking for more. She also loses her phone all the time. She simply doesn't understand the concept of being cautious and frugal with money and valuables. The event that really set off an alarm, however, was her winning $27,000 at a casino, all before the money was mysteriously gone in less than 2 weeks. He had also sent her over $1,000 in wire transfers over the last year, which she also wasted. From this point, my partner decided to start holding her more accountable for her irresponsibility and sent her a Chime card, which he and only he can put money on it as well as withdraw money from it. He even warned her up front that if he saw that she took money out of the card at an ATM, that he would know she's wasting it on gambling and that he would pull the plug on it. She did not like this at all. After he made this clear to her, she called him a few hours later and left the following voicemail.
Keep the money that you were going to send me because you and your sisters are no longer a part of my life. I'm disowning you from this day on. Stay out of my life forever.
Obviously, she was angry that he wouldn't be feeding her gambling addiction anymore. It was harsh, but it was fine. Apparently, this isn't the first time she's done something like this. This happened last week. Cut to this morning, and my partner sees he has 2 missed calls from his mom, followed by a text message asking,
"Where did you send my money to?"
We were both very confused when we saw this. My partner called her back and asked, "Why do you expect me to send you money when you said that I'm disowned from you?" Her response was honestly to say that he would always be disowned from her. After my partner heard that, he hung up on her. She called back a couple more times about the money, which my partner wasn't going to give her. She even told him to be a man and pay her. He even called her back and played the voicemail she left into the phone, after which his mom again hung up. Just imagine having the absolute audacity to disown your son, only to then do a complete 180 and ask for money from that son. There was no apology about what she said, just a request for more money that she doesn't work for, as well as doubling down on what she said, yet still expecting him to feed her addiction. Let's just say my partner's mom is never going to be Mother of the Year anytime soon. That's really disgusting that this mom would disown their son over the fact that they're not going to feed their gambling addiction. It's really sad because this kind of behavior is just unacceptable. It sounds like this original poster's partner is well on their way to doing this, but they need to cut off this mom from any financial support permanently. If they're going to be acting like this and saying that they're disowning their son for their son not giving them exactly what they want, then it's time for them to figure this out themselves. It's probably going to take this lady to be homeless and without any support for her to realize that, hey, I need to start saving my money. But even then, that might not be enough. Gambling addictions are really scary because all of your money and assets can go straight into the void and be completely taken away from you, also you can get your fix. Hopefully the mom in this situation can get some help because otherwise this lady's not going to have anyone to even talk to her pretty soon, especially if she disowns people for not giving her what she wants. Several people in my social group are interested in the same guy, and I'm worried that there's going to be a fallout in our social group if this continues. What should I do? I am a long-standing member of an LGBTQ+ social group focusing on a slightly niche nerdy hobby. There are around 12 core members. Our ages range from 20 to mid-30s, and most of us are men. Mark, that's not his real name, joined the group approximately 2 years ago. He's one of the youngest in the group, and I'm somewhere in the middle. He was already in a long-term relationship when I first met him and has only recently become single. I like Mark a lot. He is incredibly good looking, but he is also smart, funny, and an absolute sweetheart. He is very popular in the group, and the dynamic has noticeably improved since he started coming. I've had a huge crush on him since day one, as have several other guys in the group. I know it sounds creepy, but we've joked about it sometimes, about how people would be queuing up if he ever became single. But obviously, we never did this in front of him. The general consensus is that Mark is the type of guy who will go straight from long-term relationship to long-term relationship. He's a bit of a romantic, and he's not the kind of guy who would be single for long. When Mark told us he and his boyfriend broke up, obviously we were all very supportive. We haven't seen him regularly since it happened because he's not felt up for it. He comes up in conversation regularly though. As I said, he's a popular guy. Last time we met up as a group, he wasn't there. He did, however, come up in conversation, and someone said something about him being single for the first time in years. Without thinking about it much, I jokingly said, "Dibs," because it's not a secret that several of us are interested in him. Obviously, I know calling dibs isn't a real thing. He's not my property, and I'm not entitled to anything. It was just a stupid joke. Obviously, I wouldn't tell Mark how I feel about him until he's feeling better because I don't want to pressure him. But to be honest, I'm kind of worried that one of the other guys will swoop in before I get the chance. So maybe this was just my awkward way of bringing that up. It didn't go well at all though, including with the other guys who I know for a fact are also waiting for their chance. I do realize it was a dumb thing to say, but the more I think about it, the more worried I am about us actually competing for him, both for our sakes as well as for his. It has the potential to be extremely uncomfortable. With the exception of Mark himself, none of us have especially good social skills. In contrast, he isn't remotely socially awkward, but he is young and doesn't like offending anyone, so if it does get messy, it could be rough on him. I fully realize he may not be interested in any of us. Frankly, he is out of all of our leagues. I have a few reasons to think I might have a chance, but I could just be kidding myself. I'm mainly just concerned that if we all decide we want to make a move, how on earth is that gonna go? Do we make an agreement amongst ourselves? That just sounds like some kind of sitcom stuff, and if Mark knew we were talking about him like that, I'm positive it would freak him out. I really like my hobby group, and I like Mark being a part of it. Maybe the sensible thing would be to put my feelings for him on ice. I'm crazy about him though, and I really don't want to miss my chance. What should I do? I'm not gonna lie, the amount of people circling around this guy like they're a bunch of vultures is really disturbing. And to be honest, from my perspective, it's a little creepy. Like, you know he's a sweet guy and he doesn't want to offend people, and it seems like all of you are looking at him like he's a piece of meat. You can totally have a crush on him, like don't get me wrong, but it seems like it's being handled really poorly. So I think you might have the right idea. Maybe put it on ice and see if he even comes back to the hobby group. Because if he's laying low, he's probably doing it for a reason. And who's to say he doesn't already know how people feel about him at this hobby group in general? Like, rumors can spread. Who's to say he doesn't know what all of you have been saying about him? Maybe that's weirded him out. I don't know what the truth is, but honestly, I think maybe taking a step back and giving someone some space could really go a long way in this situation. My coworker refuses to accept that I cannot attend her party, and now I don't know what to do. My coworker has organized a big birthday party for herself and made it a wedding theme party, meaning that we are supposed to wear clothes that we would wear to a wedding as a wedding guests. This is all because, according to her, as she has never been married and her father is now terminally ill, she wants to have a father-daughter dance. I already RSVP'd that I would go weeks ago. However, last weekend I began getting excruciating pain in my wrist. For some background on this, I've had cancer twice since I was 26. One tumor in my spine that was surgically removed after radiotherapy at 27 years old, and then a type of lymphoma in the glands of my throat that I had surgically removed January of 2021. Any bone pain now terrifies me, and rightfully so, to be honest. I went to the doctor finally on Thursday night when I couldn't move my hand, and they confirmed with an x-ray that I have a growth on my wrist bone that could be bone cancer, but I won't know entirely until they test it. My coworker does not know about my history of cancer. However, as I kept everything very quiet when I had the time off and basically told my managers that if anyone ended up knowing that I had not personally told, that I would be taking them to a tribunal regarding confidentiality, as I am a very private person. I was lucky and privileged, to be honest, because none of my treatments led me to losing any of my hair on my head except my eyebrows and eyelashes, which I blamed on my thyroid. I lost a couple of rows of hair on the back of my head, weirdly, but that was covered up by the rest of my hair, and the rest of my hair just shed more than usual. So thankfully, nothing major that would be super noticeable. I've been signed off of work with a sick note, which carries me through to after a biopsy is taken. I'm in a great deal of pain, and it's nerve pain, so I need special neuro painkillers to even touch it. I messaged her and said I'm so sorry to let you down last minute, but I can't come due to carpal tunnel. And I know that's a lie, but my business is my business. I also explained truthfully that I'm on loads of painkillers and I can't go. I expected that to be the last of it, to be honest. Instead, She has messaged me back and forth 3 times insisting that I must go. The first message said, "No, don't do that. Can't you come for just a bit and get a few drinks in you so the pain feels less bad?" I replied that I also didn't want work to find out I handed in a sick note and then went to a party. Again, I assumed the interaction would be done and over with from there. She messaged me back saying, "I've been off sick with a broken bone before and went to a work event. Just don't appear in any photos. No one will tell on you." This filled me with so much social anxiety, to be honest, because I'm walking a fine line all the time at work between my professional assertiveness and maintaining friendly relations with my colleagues, as it is, and a fear dysfunction in my working relationships. I replied that I was taking my sick note in tomorrow and would let her know what my pain was like tomorrow, but I doubt that I would be able to come. I also said that I would reimburse her for the money she spent on my meal. She has messaged a 3rd time saying, "It's not about money. You were my top person on my list that I wanted there from work, and I don't want to have to look at your empty seat." I haven't opened or replied to the message yet because I've honestly never encountered such an unwillingness to accept what I'm saying in a context like this before. Does anyone have any advice as how to even navigate this in the first place? Pain, fear, and acute social anxiety are impairing my ability to make a good decision, I think. What should I do? I think the way your friend is acting is super inconsiderate. They are 100% thinking about themselves and not about you. I think your honest first step would be to stop trying to defend yourself or to try and justify your actions. You said you aren't coming. That's that. If she feels upset about that, well then let her be upset. People cancel things all the time. You are not the first person on planet Earth to decide, "Hey, I've got to back out of this thing." It is what it is. It's not like you did this on purpose. You're having a medical issue that you're clearly concerned about. Also, for context, her coworker is 40 years old. You would think someone that old would have a little bit more consideration towards somebody else having a medical emergency. And yeah, I would classify this as a medical emergency. You're trying to figure out if you have cancer or not. That would be really scary. So I would personally message her back one more time and say, "No, I can't do it. I've got some medical things going on and I would feel more comfortable staying home." And honestly, that's that. If she messages anymore, you don't even have to respond, in my opinion. Because if someone's going to be that super inconsiderate, then I truly think it's not worth even showing up. Today, I realized that I have no friends. Today was my birthday, and I don't really like to celebrate or do anything special, nor do I expect people to do something big for me. But I think I deserved a simple wish from some of my closest friends, who just so happen to be the same friends that I stay up every year all night to wish them a happy birthday once their birthday rolls around. But in complete contrast, nobody remembered. I am the most disappointed in my best friend, who I have known for 10 years. And it's not even about the birthday wishes that I didn't get this year, but rather it's about what's been happening for months now. I am slowly losing friends, and nobody is interested in staying my friend anymore because I am a boring person who took a very hard career and is always busy with college and stuff. And I am never in for stuff that normal teens or young adults do. But despite all that, I always find time for a few close friends. But now I think it isn't worth it. Most of all, I am heartbroken about my best friend. I reminded her that it's my birthday, and she messaged me an hour later to apologize for not wishing me happy birthday. And honestly, it did not sound sincere. I told her it's okay and that I'm not mad at all. And after that, we didn't really talk. She had been ignoring me and avoiding me for several weeks now, and I think that was it. She has now completely checked out, it seems. I do not know if I should try one more time. I'm not sure if I should just throw away years of friendship without more effort on my part. Should I contact her again? What should I do? I've been in this situation and I know exactly what you're going through, because losing friends in your 20s is something that just kind of happens. People that you spent so much time with, so much time getting to know and spending time around, eventually people do drift apart. Unfortunately, you can't hang on to everybody, and that's just the truth. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I can tell you, being in the throes of that and seeing your friends drift apart and people who used to be your best friends slowly become your acquaintances is really nasty, and it really sucks. I think you can make efforts to try and reach out and rekindle that friendship, but honestly, if the other person is not putting in the effort that you're putting in, then in my opinion, just from personal experience, there's nothing wrong with letting go and letting them become an acquaintance. If they don't want to be that good best friend to you, then personally, I would just let them go in the direction they clearly want to go. I'm a firm believer that when someone tells you who they are, or if they show you who they are, you should believe them. And in this case, it seems like your best friend is slowly drifting apart. Now, do I think you should drop him completely? No, absolutely not. I think you should go back and try and get things back together. It honestly doesn't seem like a lost cause. It seems like maybe your friend just forgot. It seems like an honest mistake. So in my opinion, I think you should go back and give it a try and see if you can get your friendship back together with this lady. Because who knows, she probably thinks you're still her best friend, and maybe some honest communication will help you both see that again. My husband and I are expecting our third baby, but his family is mad at us because they think I'm ruining his life. My husband and I have two girls. One girl is 16 months old and the other is 3 months old, and we are expecting another one. I don't think any of it was planned, it just sort of happened. We stopped using protection, knowing what could happen, and well, here we are. It was our decision, and fortunately, we can afford to have another baby. So when we told his family, we announced it as happy news. We didn't ask for advice on what to do, but anyways, they started telling us exactly what to do. His mother was furious with me because according to her, I am the one who has this obsession with having so many children, which is just simply not true. I always dreamed of having a baby, and for years, I thought I would not be able to have children. So when I finally got pregnant, I didn't mind having another one. But it was never just my decision. My husband always supported me because he also wants children. But it was never an unhealthy obsession because having children was never my only goal. It was just a dream. But according to her, I'm crazy, and apparently I'm ruining her son's life. My husband told her to stop saying those things or else they would never hear from him again. But they kept saying those things as well as other terrible things about me. And when they started saying these things over and over again, my husband has taken the girls and refuses to contact them. It has been 4 days and we have not spoken to any of them, even when they've tried to contact us. They apologized to me and said that the news took them by surprise and that they shouldn't have reacted like the way they did. But still, my husband doesn't want anything to do with them. I talked to him and he says he doesn't want to talk to them for a while. I told him that in a few days it's his birthday and that his family had a party planned for him. He said he doesn't care and he wants to spend his birthday only with me and the girls. And I respect his decision. And I know that what they said was wrong, but they already apologized and I think they were genuine. I don't want that misunderstanding to end up in a fight that ruins their relationship forever. What should I do? It sounds like your extended family is really toxic towards you as well as your husband, which is really unfortunate because you would expect that having another child in the family would be a joyous occasion, but instead they turn on you and try and pretend like this is your fault. That's just disturbing. I completely understand where this guy is coming from. I would be super upset with my family if they said that about my wife as well, especially if I was in his shoes. So I kind of see where he's coming from. I think maybe giving this some time and allowing him to cool down might hopefully allow him to have a clear perspective where he isn't so emotionally engaged. And I honestly don't think the birthday party is going to happen, but I think eventually he can come to talk to his family again, and hopefully they can actually mean it when they say they're sorry and never talk to you or your husband like that ever again. Should I be forced to pay my mom's mortgage? So a bit of background. My mom and dad have been divorced for some time now, which leaves my mom as a single parent to me. Since I started working, I have had to pay board and rent to my mom, which of course I have no issues with. However, everyone I've spoken to thinks I pay way too much. Since I got my first full-time job, I've had to pay $400 a month to my mom to live at home. This was not discussed prior, and I did not get a say on this. She seemed to just pick this number out of thin air. I have questioned where this money goes, as surely that means the house, including bills, costs more than $800 a month, as I assume I should be paying half. Every time I try to talk to her about it, she gets super defensive, she starts shouting, and it ends with us both getting angry and upset. During these discussions/arguments, she keeps mentioning I wouldn't have to pay as much if she had 2 wages coming into the household. Surely that's not my problem or fault, right? It's not my fault that dad doesn't live with us. She also has lied to me by giving me different amounts regarding the amount outstanding on the mortgage, as well as what I owe from bills. Anyways, it goes on and it gets worse. My mom has had a savings account in my name, which she is a trustee of since I was born. She had the money from the government for having a child put into there. By the way, I live in the United Kingdom. There is approximately $9,000 in the account, which I appreciate and is a lot of money. I was told growing up I would receive this when I turned 18. However, this never happened. I can also add here the fact that my mom has stated that this is her money and that she put it into a trustee savings account with my name as the beneficiary to avoid my dad taking half should they split up, which guess what? They eventually did. My mom had stated numerous times that she would like to get this withdrawn as she wants this money transferred to her bank account to pay off her mortgage, which she states has a shortfall of about $9,000. Again, when she's mentioned the outstanding balance on the mortgage, the number changes drastically, so I'm not sure if I believe her. I contacted the bank to see where I stand, and they stated that legally the money is mine, as it has been saved and earned interest in my name. They said it would have to be put into a bank account in my name to be released, which is what I did. So I had the money put into my bank account to be put into a savings account each month to earn interest on it. However, my mom isn't happy about this and said she felt blindsided and that she wanted the money to be transferred into her bank account for the mortgage. She says that she wants the money when the savings account is finished, but I can keep any interest earned. The savings account is only a 1-year account and is due to end in the coming months. So I'm just looking for some help on what to do in this situation, as she has again mentioned the money in the savings account coming to an end. I should also mention that my mom is most definitely not struggling financially. She had me set up a direct debit into her savings account from her bank, and I couldn't help but see the balance in her account. She could buy the house again at the original price and still have money left over. I'm totally lost right now. Do I give her the money? Do I give her half? Do I tell her it's legally mine and that I don't have to give her any of it? Money is such a difficult thing to talk about, even at the best of times, and it can sometimes bring out the worst in people. What should I do? Here's my honest opinion, and this does not answer your question at all. I would take the money and move out. Clearly, your mom's just trying to get that money to use it for herself. Sure, she's got a mortgage to pay off, but guess what? That money is in your name. To be honest, it sounds like your mom is super greedy and super entitled. You don't have to give her anything personally. I would honestly follow the advice of the bank and say, hey, it's yours. And the worst part about it is, she already has money she can use to pay for her mortgage. It literally sounds like she just wants this out of greed, which is just super unfair to you. So if I was in your shoes, I would not give this money to her. That's just my opinion though. But what about you? What would you do if you were in this situation? Leave a comment down below. We would love to see it. My insane mother-in-law is convinced that I am going to divorce my wife and is trying to convince my wife of the same, and I've simply had enough. My wife and I have been together for 8 years and have been trying to have our first child for about 6 months now. We were keeping everything under wraps, but my wife recently had to take leave from her job at the advice of a doctor. This was all related to trying to get pregnant, as well as some existing medical conditions. We decided it was time to let our parents know, as keeping my wife's leave under wraps was going to be impossible. My mother-in-law responded to the news by saying that she needed time to process the information. I walked into another room, and my mother-in-law called my wife back and made sure I couldn't hear the conversation, and proceeded to tell my wife that she has concerns and that she didn't think that we should have a child together. My mother-in-law's concerns were a complete blindside to both my wife as well as myself. My wife graduated approximately 2 years ago, and my father-in-law told me ahead of her graduation party, without my mother-in-law's knowledge, mind you, that my father-in-law as well as my mother-in-law were buying us a set of cornhole boards. During the graduation party, I said something about the cornhole boards to my mother, and my mother-in-law realized that I knew about the boards before the party. Instead of asking me how I knew, she went to her husband and asked if he knew how I found out. My father-in-law lied. He denied telling me, and they came up with the insane theory that I must have snooped through their email account when I fixed their computer. This lie has snowballed out of control to the point that my mother-in-law now believes that I am installing tracking devices on my wife's person and vehicle. She also claims that I'm wiretapping her phone and that I am tracing her at her job daily. She told my wife that I am going to wait until the child is born, divorce my wife, take the child, and use this medically necessary leave to claim my wife is not capable of being a parent. My wife went and talked to her mother in person that night. My mother-in-law would not even allow my father-in-law in the room and said that our opinions match, claiming that he did not need to be there for the conversation. She told my wife that for the last 2 years, I have shown red flags that needed to be addressed before we considered having a baby. When pressed about if my mother-in-law even believes we should remain married, she refused to answer the question. She went so far as to compare me to her abusive ex-husband, who also just happens to be my wife's biological father, with whom my wife has cut contact with for almost 12 years. My wife and I are furious and incredibly hurt that they have let things get to this point without talking to us. Is there any way to restore this relationship with my wife's parents? If so, what steps should be taken? My wife and her mother have always been close, and they never keep secrets from each other. But this was left festering for so long that I feel it has become insurmountable. My father-in-law has always been scared to anger my mother-in-law and would never come clean about telling me about the cornhole boards at this point, as my wife and I believe it would jeopardize their marriage. What should I do? In my opinion, these people sound crazy. Like the fact that she believes that this guy is actually tracking her at work, as well as somehow wiretapping their phones, is just completely ridiculous. And it doesn't help that the father-in-law is the person to blame for this entire situation. Like if the mother-in-law was just a pile of gasoline, the father-in-law was the match that lit it. Instead of just owning up to it and being like, yep, I told him about the cornhole boards. It's my fault. I shouldn't have done that. He instead let this transform into something that's just absolutely ridiculous. In my opinion, I would cut these people off very quickly from my life. And it sounds like the original poster in this situation is going to be thrown under the bus for the rest of eternity. If I was the original poster, I would sit down with my wife and say, hey, your parents are crazy. I still love you, but I don't want them in our lives. Because in my honest opinion, this will never get better, especially when accusations are being thrown around without any shred of evidence. So yeah, that's my take on this situation, and I really hope you're able to find some relief from these crazy in-laws. Because from the sounds of it, I think you're in it for the long haul, and I think they're going to blame you for everything pretty much no matter what. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check out the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for cutting off my uncle from my life after he refused to help take care of my grandfather? So first, a little bit of backstory. I live in an Asian country where we had some pretty traditional values, like men are better than women, stuff like that. My family takes care of my grandfather, and we have for over 10 years without a break, because he had a stroke some years back and needs help walking, eating, and showering. My uncle and his wife didn't want to take care of him, so the responsibility fell on my mom, my dad, my brother, and me. A few months ago, my uncle offered to take care of my grandfather for 2 months because he wants his child to get to know my grandfather. We of course say yes and finally take a much needed vacation. 1 month in, and we get a message from our uncle, and it said that he dropped off my grandfather at our doorstep with his luggage and that we need to come back quickly to take care of him. We were shocked and angry because we were an hour away and couldn't get back fast enough. So we asked him to at least bring him inside our home and to use our spare key under the doormat. He did that begrudgingly, but kept on messaging us about how big of an inconvenience this was. Turns out my uncle got bored of taking care of my grandfather and decided that he didn't want to take care of him anymore and just dropped him off without notice. And while he was in our house, he stole one of our family heirlooms because he wanted payment for taking care of my grandfather. Keep in mind, our family heirloom is a painting of my great-grandfather, who was a famous painter, and his paintings usually go for a lot of money. And this particular painting was promised to my mom. After all this, we demanded him to bring back the painting, and he said he didn't want to because we were apparently not taking care of it properly and that he would just keep it safe for us. So we went no contact with him, we blocked him on all social medias, and we blocked his phone number. But my grandfather still talks to him daily, and my grandfather says that we were too harsh and that we shouldn't cut off family. Plus, all of our relatives are chiming in and saying that we're the jerks in this situation. So that begs the question, are we the jerks for cutting off my uncle after the way he acted and the things he did? I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think the fact that your uncle dropped off your grandfather at your doorstep all because he got bored of taking care of him is absolutely ridiculous. You don't just get rid of a family member because you're bored of them and you don't want to take care of them. They're not a pet. You can't do that. This is a commitment, and guess what? You're agreeing to take care of them. In fact, the uncle is the one that came to this family saying, hey, I want to take care of my father now. When you say, hey, I want to do this, guess what? You have to do it. The grandfather on this situation is really in need of assistance, and he really needs help. So it's completely insulting and irrational for you to then suddenly turn around and say, nah, I don't want to take care of him. That's not fair for anybody. And on top of all of that, and just how inconsiderate this uncle is, he robbed your family. He stole a family heirloom that did not belong to him, all under the guise that he's going to supposedly keep it safe. And I can guarantee you that that painting's going to be in worse condition under his care than it would have been in your own house. So no, in my opinion, you are not the jerk. I would completely ignore any of the relatives who have nothing to do with this situation because they are just birds chirping on the power line in this situation. They literally have nothing to do with it, so they can stay out of it. And in my opinion, I think you should continue to cut off your uncle because his actions are clearly toxic and he is only thinking about himself. I offered to buy him a drink on our second date, but got stuck with a whole bill instead. Is it okay for me to be upset? I've been talking to this guy every day for several weeks. Conversations have been great, our first date was really good, and we ended up going out again yesterday. Everything was going so well until the bill came along. I had had asked if I could pick the next place that we would go to. We're both foodies. So we went to a place he'd never been to before. It was a little pricey, but he chose it out of a list that I sent him. The restaurants on that list varied from super cheap to kind of expensive. The day before, he had an exciting development at work, and I offered to buy us a round of drinks to celebrate. It's worth noting, I did not offer to pay for the whole menu when I said this. He orders one of the more expensive drinks on the menu, which is totally fine. I was planning on paying for it anyways. The bill comes and they set it near me. I needed to use the restroom, so I set my card down and said if they come back, to just give them my card for the drinks. I come back from the restroom and the bill and my card are still sitting there. The waiter comes up and asks if we're going to be using my card to pay. I look at him and he looks at me. No movement or offer to split the bill. It's awkward, so I just go ahead and pay for everything. We did grab drinks afterwards and he paid for what I got, but the whole experience left a bad taste in my mouth. He didn't make a move to kiss me at the end of the night, which was just strange also. I'm torn on how I should feel about this. My immediate reaction was to feel kind of mad and turned off, but part of me feels like because I picked the place, maybe I was supposed to pay for some reason? I'm not sure, but I would love to know someone else's perspective on this. So what do you think? Am I okay to be upset over this? I can see your perspective on this one, but he did pay for the first date, and you didn't really communicate clearly or speak up for yourself at all, so it kind of sounds like this one's on you. I think you probably should have made it a little bit more clear that you're just paying for the drinks and that he's going to be picking up the rest of it, but it sounds like that part of the conversation was either completely missed or not at all communicated. So unfortunately, I think you're just going to have to eat that bill and maybe next time speak up a little bit better about what you want. That way everybody can walk away happy. My brother is gaslighting his wife really badly, and I don't know if there's anything I can do about it. I know gaslighting is a term that gets thrown around a lot lately, so please correct me if I'm not using it right, but I think I am. To start off, I'm a 23-year-old female. My brother is 34 years old, and he's married to a girl who is 21 years old. They have 3 kids together, and he treats her like absolute garbage. And no matter what I say to her, she'll always just make an excuse for it. She'll say things like, oh, he's just tired from work, or whatever. And it reached a point where if I talk too badly about him, she'll get annoyed with me and stop talking to me for a while. Anyway, I recently heard that he cheated on her. The person who told me is a reliable source, so I'm sure he did cheat, but I don't have any solid proof. I still don't know if I should say something to her or not, since I don't have any proof. She's talked to me a few times about things that she's noticed that have been off, especially things that I've told her were red flags and that she should look into. One of the things was his long hours at work. She said she was talking to one of his coworkers' wives and mentioned how hard the longer hours have been. The wife had no idea what she was talking about. Her husband wasn't working any extra hours. I told her that that was weird and she should look into it. She ended up asking my brother, and he gave her some BS excuse about how just his department was working late. I pointed out to her that the woman she talked to is in the same department as her husband. She was just like, oh, I'm sure there are smaller inner departments we don't know about. Then she found text messages on his phone, like straight up cheating texts. She confronted him about it, and he said it was one of his coworkers texting his girlfriend from his phone. And yet still, she's not catching on. To top it all off, she found a ring in their SUV that he used when his truck was in the shop. He claimed it was mine, that it must have fallen off when I used the car to pick up their kids. She went to return it to me, and I told her that it was not mine. When she asked my brother again, he told her that he didn't mean me, but our other sister or one of her friends. But neither of those people that he mentioned picked up the kids ever, as none of them have their license. And the incidents go on and on. How can I snap her out of it without getting her mad? I really don't have much of a relationship with my brother, to be honest. I do, however, have a relationship with her because we were both in cheerleading together in high school. What should I do? It's a really sad situation because I don't know if there's anything you can do. It sounds like the writing could literally be on the wall or on the phone and she's still gonna deny it. Like she passes off all of this toxic behavior without ever confronting him about it, which is just really, really sad. Very obviously, her husband is absolutely using her, and he has manipulated her so much that she doesn't say anything about blatant red flags that are right in front of her face. And that is really, really sad. I can only imagine being in that type of situation where you're trying to desperately excuse everything your significant other is doing, all to avoid the inevitable reality that they are probably cheating on you, let alone treating you terribly, and for years at that. But unfortunately, I don't know if there's much this original poster can do other than just saying, hey, I'm here for you and I care about you. Because it sounds like this lady does does not want to fess up to the fact that her husband is treating her poorly and cheating on her. And if a person doesn't want help with the situation or in any way wants to face this, then there's really not much you can do about it. My mom called me fat and expects me to apologize to her. My mom and I have always had a strained relationship due to her being absolutely crazy. She's an aggressive narcissist, she's a gaslighter, and she has always favored my younger, substance-addicted, money-thieving brother for God knows what reason. My mom and I did actually have a period of my childhood where she said she would brag to her friends about me. She would tell them that I would get good grades, and that I don't run off with the boys, and I don't get pregnant, I don't do any of these terrible things. I realized a couple of years ago that I don't really remember when she stopped saying those nice things about me. I mean, did she ever? Maybe she was lying then too. Well, little did I know that not only had she stopped saying nice things about me, if she ever did, but she has also been insulting me to our family for years. I didn't find this out until about 2 weeks ago. I got a phone call from my cousin who said she didn't want to keep quiet about something anymore, saying that she had to tell me that my mom was over at my aunt's house in front of the entire family mocking me. She said I'm too sensitive and that I'm self-conscious about my body and that it's probably because I'm fat and that she has to choose her words carefully around me because otherwise I might start a fight. Now, just days before this, I had gone to a bridesmaid dress fitting at my mom's place and the dress was massive on me. Yes, I'm very curvy, but the dress was even bigger. My mom, in half an hour, managed to insult my body, my skin, my hair, and more. I have chronic depression. She knows this, and I spent the next week in a manic depressive spiral, but she simply didn't care. So to get that phone call from my cousin was the last straw. I posted a poem on my socials, which I had no intention of posting before, about how my mom tore me down during one dress fitting. She contacted me soon after and was saying everything was my fault anyway and demanding that I explained why I would even post the poem in the first place. It has now been 2 weeks of no contact. I've been to 2 family events with her around and have actually been much calmer and happier without her hanging around, and I think she knows it. Yesterday, while at a carnival with the family, my mom was there again. I didn't say a word and I enjoyed myself with the other family thoroughly. My cousin told me she overheard my mom saying she's waiting for me to come to her, but I have no intention of doing that anymore. Later, my uncle sat down with me and said my mom feels this is so weird and he doesn't want me to have any regrets and that he can't imagine me not being at my mom's wedding, who I was going to be a bridesmaid for until things went south. He says this after witnessing my mom making fun of me and calling me fat. He was pretty much asking me to forgive and forget and to move on. I don't know about you, but I've experienced more happiness and growth in the 2 weeks I've cut my mom off than I think I would by forgiving and forgetting the stuff she's done to me for the 100th time. I don't think I will forgive and move on like I always have before. I think instead I'll just move on without her with a smile on my face. Good for this original poster for finally seeing that, hey, I don't need this crazy lady in my life, especially when her mom has been treating her like garbage for years. There's a cliche saying that I've heard somewhere before that says, sometimes the best revenge is a life well lived. And I really like that, and I think that applies in this situation. Your mom has put you down, humiliated you, and talked badly about you constantly. There is no reason for you to forgive her for anything. I think maybe eventually you can find yourself in a place where you can let go of the things that have happened, but to be expected to forgive her just so you can keep the peace and have it so her wedding goes off while you're there is not something I would do if I was in your shoes. I absolutely would make it a point, especially at her own wedding, to say, hey, your actions actually have consequences this time. And guess what? It's your own fault. So good for you for finding your voice and good for you for finding a way to get away from her. Because in my opinion, you're going to be so much better off without her constantly putting you down. My dad is planning on divorcing my mom, and my mom wants me to try and help salvage their marriage as a last resort. And I honestly don't know what to do. The beginning of this is a mess. For me at least. My mom and dad have been married for a long time. I don't know the exact length, but I'd say at least 20 years. On June 19th of this year, they were having a super loud fight. I stayed in my room trying to ignore it by playing a rhythm game, as one does. Then the fighting sort of stopped, but my sister and I were called to the dining room. My mom and dad were at the table, looking distressed. Lots of stuff was said, but the summary was that my dad was tired of fighting and didn't feel like he belonged in our family anymore. anymore. He didn't say anything about divorce, but he sure did imply that he wanted one. My sister, who was more aware of this conflict between my parents than I was at the time, snapped at both of them, saying that she was tired of their fights and that all she wanted was for her sister, which is me, as well as herself to be safe. She told them to go somewhere else if they were going to keep fighting like this, and thankfully they did. My older sister later comforted me because I was confused and upset, but for the rest of the day, we were in our respective rooms trying to cope. My parents came home at around 11 o'clock at night. The fighting died down, to me at least, but I noticed that my parents weren't talking anymore, and my dad was sleeping on the couch instead of their shared room. I've noticed he's also listening to an audiobook called Should I Stay or Should I Go? Fast forward to today. I was in my room minding my own business as usual, and my mom came in very visibly upset. She told me that my dad was planning on divorcing her and selling our house and other properties. She wanted to ask me if I could write him a letter telling him that he should stay and not divorce my mom. This is because I had to write a letter to my parents for my 8th grade graduation, and despite how lazy I was in writing that letter to them, it ended up making them cry. My mom told me that because I'm my father's daughter, he has a soft spot for me and will listen to me. So I told her that I would write the letter. This has single-handedly ruined my day. I already have to deal with regular 14-year-old things, like my current summer school classes, and having an annoying crush. And that's almost too much for me already. I've basically been tasked with mending my parents' relationship. I've told my friends about this, and they've offered me places to stay, as well as their support. But like me, they're all 14, and don't know how to deal with this sort of heavy stuff either. I also can't go to my sister for help right now, because she's on an international school trip, and I don't want to ruin her fun by dropping this news on her. It's the summer before her senior year, and I don't want her to be stressed during a time where she's supposed to be having a good time with her friends. And just so you know, my dad is very firm on his decision to divorce my mom. They've tried therapy, they've tried couples counseling, but he said he doesn't want to do that anymore and just wants the divorce. What should I do? I want to make it very clear to anybody listening. If you place it on your kids to try and save your marriage, you are a terrible human being and a terrible parent. That is not the kind of thing you put on your kids' shoulders. I'm sorry, that is just absolutely terrible. I feel so bad for this original poster to be put in a position like that where they are now in a roundabout way responsible for the success or failure of this marriage. Like, that is absolutely horrendous, and I'm so sorry they're dealing with this. If I was in this person's shoes, I would immediately go up to my mom and tell them, this is really uncomfortable for me. There's nothing I can do about it, and I'm really sorry that the marriage fell apart, but this is not on me, this is on you. Then again, saying this to your parent at 14 years old is really, really hard, and I don't expect it to go that way, but I would definitely express my feelings of discomfort and sadness that my mom is placing this kind of pressure on me. This is such a sad situation, and I genuinely wish the original poster the absolute best in trying to navigate this, because this is just not fair. And it's not fair for your mom to put you in this kind of position with this kind of pressure, all because she can't handle this relationship herself, which, by the way, is not your responsibility. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.